Sadly, this is a forsaken generation. Hear this well, we're not going away. Eyes are opening to the truth. We grow stronger in number as a united force every day. Babies are dying, parents left crying, told that SIDS or coincidence disorder are to blame, parents forced to live with the pain and shame. The once bright smiling faces full of wonder turned vacant stares, families shattered while they also endured the public glares. You're wiping out future generations for your own selfish gain as we form this revolution for liberation and change. We will keep speaking louder and louder. We will not be silenced until there is a shift in power. So stand up, speak out, be brave, be the voice of the voiceless. Too many forsaken lay in their graves. Welcome to Forsaken Generation.
All right, everybody. If you are listening, that means it is Monday, so welcome to Forsaken Generation. I am your host, Lynette Marie Barron, and I am being joined for my first time ever for this aspect of the show by Anu. Can you hear me, buddy?
Hi, everybody. How's it going? Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Sounds like you're running from the po-po.
You know, I live in L.A., so it's kind of this is background music for living in L.A.
I heard like doors and all kinds of stuff, and then woo woo.
Yeah, it's kind of the way things are. How's everything going, Lynette?
It is going great out here. It is a beautiful day in Alabama, so I cannot complain. Other than a few things we're going to touch on in a little bit, it's been quite a nice morning. So
that's great.
So
maybe we should welcome everybody.
We're about to have some fun, right?
Show, huh? Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Yes.
I want to welcome everybody to the Case of the Mondays. This is the first edition of Case of the Mondays with Lynette Anu, and what we're going to be talking about today is unity. But what we're going to be doing in the future is covering a bunch of different topics, and we're going to be delving into them a little bit more in detail and sometimes a little bit more differently than it's done before. So welcome, everybody, to Case of the Mondays with Lynette Anu, and I hope you guys enjoy what we have to do.
Yes, definitely. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited. I know we have a lot of new listeners today. I received a lot of messages yesterday from people talking about how they were going to be tuning in for the first time, so welcome. Very exciting stuff here. And speaking about unity, Anu, I actually woke up this morning to the perfect text message for today's show. It couldn't have been any more like, we need to talk about this kind of stuff. So I don't know, maybe God was just at work this morning, stuff happening, and it's like, hey, let's get this to the right place. But once again, receiving messages from people in our movement saying that other people are trolls or other people are this or that, and wanting to warn me or whatever. And, it's just so hard. It's so frustrating. In some ways you want to be like, I appreciate you for trying to warn me because you care about me. But then in other ways it's like, number one, go straight to the person. If someone's called a troll or whatever, go talk to that person straight up. Don't. To me personally, I feel like don't just start telling other people this is what I think. I think it's so much better to go talk to the person and get to the bottom of it on your own first, because I feel like, the person in question, somebody I just could never see being a bad guy. So, it's just a crazy way to start the day, knowing that you and I were going to be speaking on unity today.
It's almost as if, all the planets align when any kind of thing like this is about to come up. You know what I mean? Every time we're going to be talking about unity, or we're going to be talking about things like, hey, let's not fight, a huge fight erupts. It's the weirdest thing.
That's
it's
true.
almost as if it's like it's setting an example so everybody can look at it and go, see that? That's what we don't want to do. And that's exactly what we don't want to do. You got a text this morning literally telling you, and who knows what the backstory is, right? Whether or not this person actually did reach out to this other person or not. But I feel like there's a tendency and that's not just in this group. I've seen it happen in all kinds of groups. Like, I've worked with charity organizations for pretty much my entire career, and I will say that, in all those different communities, there's always a sense of it's us versus them, or it's like, oh, someone is slightly different in their approach, or they're saying something that I don't like. I'm going to tell everybody so everybody ostracizes that person. I mean, it's kind of schoolyard tactics, right? Like, oh, Billy doesn't like, lollipops, so we're going to take him out of the lollipop lovers group. It's just, it's that behavior, and people find it ridiculous when I make analogies like that, but it is childish behavior, right? The first thing to do is I'm going to tell everybody that this person's bad, so they ostracize that person. It's childish behavior, and we really shouldn't be doing it.
I agree. Yeah, it's frustrating. It feels like it doesn't make any sense to do that to somebody especially in our movement, when we're all fighting for the same reason. We're all here doing the same, trying to get the same goals here. I mean, this poor person's been blocked from a rally now, taken off of certain pages, and I don't know that I don't see that there's any way that there could be validity to it. So for me, it's just sad and frustrating, because it's like, this is what happens. I happened to look at something I shared the other day for the radio show, and within other people's shares, somebody had commented on it and said, she's a pro-vaxxer. And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, all of us get, talked about and scrutinized, and especially if you're out here talking loudly and making a difference, you become under attack quite a bit, because people don't want you out here doing that. They hope that if they start some crap, you'll be quiet.
Yeah, it's as soon as you're somewhat visible, the first thing that starts happening is someone will start attacking you. What's the saying? If you've got haters, you're doing something right. Something like that. That's the problem, right? Is that, why does it have to be that way? Why does it have to be that if you're going to do something, and someone has to tear you down? Someone always has to tear you down. If there's psychiatrists out there, behavioral psychologists, or anything like that out there listening to the show, I'd love to ask you guys. You know what? I think at a certain point after the show, I might actually go on YouTube and see if I can find anything by Jordan Peterson. He's a clinical psychiatrist, and he has insight into the way people behave, and I really want to figure out what it is about certain people that when they see someone else doing something, one of their first reactions is, hey, how can I tear that person down? Like, it seems like that's their first reaction, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've seen that quite a bit, and it's so stressful, because for me, I am so the opposite. If I see somebody doing something amazing, I'm like, oh, man, I need to tell them what a great job they're doing, and, I need to step my game up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I find it to be inspiring to want to do better instead of wanting to knock somebody else down for doing good. Who knows how long they've been down before they got up, Like, nobody wants to be kicked in the shin.
Nobody wants to be kicked in the shin. Lynette, I was really excited I'm still excited, actually. I was really excited about us talking about this specific topic, because it's something that I think about a lot. And it's something that really came to head when I joined the Vax Tour, and got to see, multiple communities throughout the country and overseas, and how people come together to, solve problems. And I got to see a completely different way of approaching community. But this topic in specifics, really does intrigue me, because I feel like it's the topic that is the hardest to kind of understand, I think, for a lot of people. So I almost want to say, taking from, ideas of, studying philosophy and stuff like that, is that maybe we should sit here first and define what we mean by unity. Like, what do you think, how do you define unity?
Oh, goodness. Well, I definitely don't define it as what I've been seeing with what's going on. For me, I guess it would be trying to support each other, whether you're even in 100% agreement of what that person is doing, or you support the person. It doesn't have to be. That's the hard part. It doesn't have to be, I'm like, okay, you and I, for example, we think differently when it comes to religion, but I don't think that you would look at my Bible verses or the things that I say and you wouldn't support me for how they make me feel. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to see things 100% the same way as somebody to uplift them, to make them feel better, instead of knocking somebody down. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I just use that as an example, but I mean, there are so many examples you could use. It's just, man, it's hard for me. I grew, everybody knows the way I grew up to listen to the show for the most part, unless you're a new listener. But, for me, it was like, it was growing up, with that many kids, you had to have unison. You know what I'm saying? You had to be in unity. You couldn't all be at each other's throats or trying to knock each other down all the time. It just wasn't an option. You weren't going to make it through the day like that. So I guess I grew up a little bit differently, where I learned a lot of hard lessons at a young age, and so unity to me is something easy. It's so easy to me. It's hard for me to understand when people start dividing, the part that I don't understand. There's so many arguments that have happened. You and I have talked about this kind of stuff. There's so many things that have went down, and for some reason, be it God, be it whatever people want to believe, I'm good at diffusing those kind of things because you just use rationale. I mean, that's the best part, is if you just rationalize things out with people, you can usually come to a pretty decent understanding of what's really going on. And a lot of times I feel like there's so much just drama. It's all drama. And it's so sad. We don't need that stuff. Look at me and Anu. Very different people from very different lives, and for some reason we click well. We find a way to use our strengths together and make something that was good even better. I mean, that's what everybody needs to be doing, is looking at ways to support each other to make things better, to make things move faster, to make change come faster.
You really did put it better than most people actually do when they talk about coming together. You touched on something that I want to piggyback on, because it's this idea of survival, right? Like you talk about how if growing up, all the other children that were around, all you guys, if you guys were fighting all the time, you guys would not have survived, So
That's right.
I want to talk about this idea of survival and what it means when you're talking about, us as a whole, us as a community, us as a species, whatever it is. We talk about what it really means to be unified, and it really goes back to this idea of, not being singular, right? Not being kind of isolated. You see people talk about being independent and all that stuff, and I think a lot of times people forget that it's not, being independent is different from not needing people, right? And if you think that you as a human being independent means you don't need anybody, then you've kind of probably lost what it means to be human, right? We are an interdependent species. I've said this before. We cannot survive without others. You see this in the animal kingdom as well. You see that if we don't come together on something, that we can't all survive. And the division that's created by that is chaotic. I mean, I'm pulling up things on my phone right now on the internet, and it's like the definitions that you read these things. It says the definition for unity. So it says the quality or state of not being multiple, right? Like you're not multiple separate things. You're one big thing, right? Like it's important to look at this. And another thing that's written here is a condition of harmony. I mean, for me, that's huge. Like that right there, a condition of harmony. Being able to work together means you're working in harmony towards a singular goal. my definition, like my personal definition of unity, has always been, like when we're talking about this and what we've talked about up till now, for me really comes down to for me, unity is really wanting to have conversations with people I disagree with in order to find common ground. To me, is unity, because if you can come together with someone that you disagree with, that's true unity, right? Like, it's easy to walk hand in hand with someone who believes exactly what you believe. It's super easy. In fact, you know, it's almost pointless, actually, to a certain degree, you know, if you agree with someone completely, because you're not going to grow. How do you grow together if you're completely the same? You know what I mean? I mean, if you were an isolated human being and all you did was hang out with yourself, you're not going to grow as a human being. It's really easy to say things like, and I know I'm going to trigger some people when I use this word, because we use this word in the community, and I use it too, but, you know, you see the memes all the time, right? It's like, oh, I finally found my tribe. And I think that's an interesting concept, finding your tribe, because, you know, historically speaking, tribe has kind of almost a negative connotation, right? That it's this it's tribal, right? It's not sophisticated. It's acting tribal. It has what's the word? Acting tribal
Primal
has this tribal. Almost has this what's the word? It's like reflecting a strong kind of group loyalty, right? Like kind of like, oh, we're this tribe and you're not, so screw you, kind of thing.
Right.
Right. And
it's like
and
the Mercury kids versus the aluminum kids.
Right. Oh my gosh, that is so true. That is so true. I think about that all the time. It's like the words we use when we're talking about what we're doing becomes problematic. Like, I want everybody to look at that. The next time you find someone that you agree with, right, think about how you approach it, right? Like the very act of going, oh, I found my tribe, right? When you do that, think about what that really means. Are you saying like, oh, I found my safe zone? Right? Like, are you saying I found my safe zone, now everybody else I can keep outside as long as I'm safe with my tribe?
That's right.
Right? Because right in that action, what you've done is you created division in your own mind. You created a border. You created a separate kind of, a separatist kind of idea.
We don't want no Trump walls around here, folks.
I mean, you know, people are talking about that, right? People are talking about the whole, I mean, that's kind of why, in my mind, why Trump won. Because what he did was he capitalized on the fact that human beings are to a certain extent, we are tribal. We are kind of, you know, separatists. We want to create our own little groups and, like, be careful and stay out of the, you know, like, keep people out that we think are going to hurt us. And what he did was he capitalized on that. He capitalized on that fear. He said, you know what I'm going to tell everybody that we need borders.
It's so much more empowering when you swallow all of that and you walk up in the lion's den and you start actually making friends or dropping seeds or changing minds or doing whatever. You know, that's the craziest part, is everybody's so afraid of everybody on the other side. And if you just drop the fear part and you decide we're all human underneath it all, and you start reaching out to that side of people, you get so much further. I mean, it's mind-blowing how much further you can get in a conversation with somebody if you just try to remind yourself, hey, it's not about this and that and what they think and what I think. Underneath it, at the end of the day, we're all just trying to survive and get to tomorrow. And really remind yourself of that when you're having conversations with anybody. I don't care if it's Senator Richard Pan. And I still think he might be one of the only ones out of all them that is a robot after seeing how he moves his hands. I swear to God, I thought of Ricky Bobby. I don't know what to do with my hands when I see him talking. But anyway, Oh,
that's
my
actually
bad.
hilarious. That's the one person that I was going to bring up too. Like in terms of this idea that, because here's the thing, I've been able to at least come to a somewhat of a common ground with people that I completely disagree with. That which to a lot of people seems like impossible, right? Like if you agree with someone fundamentally on an important issue, how can you get along, right? That
Right.
seems to be the idea that most people have. Like I fundamentally disagree with you on said topic, who our president is, whatever, right? Religion, right? That means I cannot get along with you at all. Like that seems to be the MO of everyone nowadays, and I don't understand that. Is that like, okay, so you think? I mean, obviously there are things where you're like, okay, I definitely do not agree with you on that, and I should probably stay away from you. You know what I mean? Like there's obvious issues. Like I'm not going to sit down with a rapist and have a beer and be like, okay, we're cool, dude. Like like that's not going to happen. But it's like there are, for the most part, the things that we disagree with each other on don't just us off completely as human beings. I find that really weird that people do that they just write people completely off. I pulled something up just now because it just reminded me of something from my childhood. When I was a kid, I was part of a kind of a punk rock band. I'm sorry, there's a really loud truck going by and I can't stop it.
It's all right. We can hear you.
Yeah. You know those street cleaning trucks that don't actually clean the streets? They just kind of push stuff around? Anyway, so...
Spread the dust in your face.
Right. When I was a kid, I was part of a punk rock band, and my bassist, who actually was my best friend before he, became a bassist, he turned me on to a band called Operation Ivy. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. If you guys haven't, you guys really need to listen to this song. Have you heard of Operation Ivy, Lynette?
I have not, but I'm pulling them up to make sure I listen after we're done.
Right. You've probably heard of the punk band Rancid, right?
Yes.
Yes. So some of the guys from Operation Ivy actually started Rancid. So if you listen to the song by Operation Ivy called Unity, and I'm sure there's somebody out there that's listening right now that's actually listened to this song before. It's a great song, and I just want to read the lyrics really quick because it's a really short song with great lyrics. So the song's called Unity by Operation Ivy, and the lyrics go, "There's a war going down between my brothers tonight. I don't want no war going down tonight. Civilization, I call it as I see it. I call it BS, I still cannot believe it. Our evolution now has gone the way of hate. A world evolved resolved in this stupid fate. Stop this war. All so different, yeah, I say we're all the same. All caught, in the division game. Self-destruction fast impending like a bullet. No one can stop it once it's fired. No one can control it. A final word. Wait, it's not a call to action. We ain't no sect. No, this ain't no effing faction. Unity, you've heard it all before. This time it's not exclusive. We want to stop a war. Unity, as one, stand together. Unity, evolution's going to come." And I just love that song because it's like...
You gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, it's an awesome song. It's such an awesome song, and that's like where that song is from. I don't even remember when that song is from. It's from a long time ago. It's 1989. I mean, that song came out in 1989, and it's funny because if you read it not knowing it's from 1989, you think you're literally talking about right now.
Yeah. And that's, it is. And there's a lot of songs like that. There's a lot of stuff like that. That's like with the stuff that's going on with the school shootings. I told my children, I was like, they keep on pushing this for gun control, acting like this is something new. But ever since they started pushing these psychotropic meds, these things have been happening. You've got Youth of a Nation by POD when I was in high school. And
right.
that song is exactly, Jeremy Spoken. There's all these songs from back when we were younger that were the same topics because the same things were happening because they were pushing the same kind of medications. Problem is they're pushing them way more to way more people now, so you're seeing it happening everywhere.
Yep. It's interesting to me when things from my childhood that there was, a small group of us, a small cohort of us talking about what was going on, and everybody going, oh, that's not really happening. And then now those same exact things are all over the place. They're all over the place. I mean, I'll tell you just now, like the other day, right? The other day, the whole, how Facebook lost like $100 billion or something like that because everybody got freaked out because, new younger people aren't signing up for Facebook, so it lost a bunch of shares. Did you hear about this, Lynette?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. I mean, guys,
it is
if you
a
haven't
trip.
heard about this, yeah, if you guys haven't heard about this, it's actually a really big deal. It is the biggest share loss in history. Like in history, no stock has fell that much ever. And what's interesting about it is that 5 years prior, actually more like 3 years prior, I was sitting in the room with a bunch of people. We were all like, we do marketing and stuff like that, and we were talking about. You know what? I'm going to go inside because this guy's really, I don't know if he's trying to start a new heavy metal band or what, but.
Anu's coming to join. Woo! Oh, sorry.
This guy, we were talking about what it means to like be a part of social media and what social media was actually doing. And we started talking about Facebook. And the conversation about Facebook went to the point where I was sitting there and I was the only one going, listen, guys, Facebook doesn't have a long time, is just going to keep growing like quote, the housing market. Everybody thinks that Facebook's just going to keep growing and Facebook is the new internet, right? Like everybody's just going to do everything on Facebook. And I said, listen, guys, eventually people are going to start getting sick of Facebook. And ask everybody you know now. Everybody you know is going to say, oh, yeah, I use Facebook, but I'm so sick of it. Right? Like it's happening now.
If you think about it, MySpace is gone, and it was way cooler. You could add music to your profile. You could add, pictures, change your whole front page so your identity was more on your page. And it went out, and Facebook took over. So, I mean, you're right. It's only a matter of time before it becomes obsolete, just like everything else.
Yeah. And
then we lose tons of people unless you actually talk to them.
Right, and that's the craziest thing is that, we're in a situation right now, I think, in this community where we're talking about something that not a lot of people are talking about, right? Yeah. Or at least not enough people are talking about, so it's not spilling over into mainstream the way we'd like. However, lately, though, it's kind of cool that things are spilling over into mainstream. Now, there's two sides of the coin there, right? Like on the one hand, I'm happy that it's spilling over into mainstream, but I'm also not happy about it because what that really means is it's getting out of control. It's getting way out of control. I mean, if the issue is getting so bad that it is actually spilling into mainstream, it's bad.
Yep.
But that means that people are going to be paying attention to it, and that's where we're at right now. Is that we're at the precipice of things spilling over into mainstream. And when you come back to this issue of what we're doing, in terms of unity and coming together to really make a difference.
Yeah. So, in short, what Anu also just said, Yeah, and sure, I just got to say this real quick. What Anu also just said is, if you love me and you want to keep touch with me, make sure I have your phone number. Because when crap hits the fan, I'd like to be able to still reach my people. So,
right,
you know, I'm just saying, if you love me, shoot me a message with your phone number, people. I'll send you mine in return.
We really do need to figure out some other way to be in touch with each other as opposed to Facebook. We got to figure out another way.
Messaging through Facebook isn't even a smart idea. Really, as what we do for a living, and really and truly, Facebook is a kind of a bad platform. It's a lot better to talk to each other through your text messaging than it is through Facebook.
It really is. It really, really is. I can't impress upon people enough. All their interactions are on a social media platform. They're going to eventually find out that, when those social media platforms disappear or if they transition into something else, you're going to lose all those interactions. It's a crazy thing. I find it interesting that people use social media. There's people who primarily use social media to divide people.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's so sad, too, and there's a lot of those people also in the movement that we're in, and that stuff gets really frustrating, and you can only take on so much if you're trying to help bring unity and stop division. You really can only take on so much. So if you're out there and you don't mind helping do that kind of stuff, please, if you see it happening, try to stop it. If you see somebody bashing, or also if you see somebody on our side acting a fool, cussing, up a storm when they're in these conversations, please message them and politely ask them to be a little bit more tactful and to watch what they say, because they represent every single one of us, and I cannot stand being represented that way. My bad, I just had to say that. I saw that several times the last few days, and it really ruffled my feathers. Like, I don't like being represented that way. That's not how I talk. That's not how I treat people. And if I'm going to represent you when I speak, and I speak like I do, then you should represent me the same way. Don't sit out there and run your mouth to people like that and cuss and drop the F-bomb. And, joking around and talking like that's one thing. But when you're out there and you're trying to educate the miseducated, you can't sit there and talk like that. You're not helping anybody by doing that. You're showing them we are the uneducated is what you're showing them. I mean, that's the truth of it.
Amen. I couldn't have said it better. I honestly just how you represent yourself out there is really going to change the way people view us as a community. We use a lot of divisive language. We don't think enough about the language we use, right? We tend to be in this thought process that people are paying attention to more what we say than how we say it, and what they don't realize is that, like, how you say something actually matters almost more. And if you don't realize that, you're going to see that you're going to be throwing all kinds of facts and links and all that kind of stuff at people, and your delivery is going to be so bad that people are just not going to listen to you. Now, I've been guilty of this myself. I grew up, an extremely rambunctious kind of, active, aggressive kind of like out there kind of dude. I was in a heavy metal band, I was like, yeah, let's do this, right? And a lot of times, it didn't matter what I was saying. I could be saying the most benign thing in the world, but the way I said it made people think I was being aggressive, and I still fall under that. I mean, I'll be honest with you right now. I make the mistake of getting really riled up about something, and I talk about things that I'm really passionate about, and it comes off aggressive. You can ask my friends. I do this. I come off really aggressive, and then my message gets lost. That's me. That's me turning the mirror on myself, and I hope that people turn the mirror on themselves. I'm not embarrassed to admit it. I regret that that's something that happens with me, but I'm not embarrassed to admit it. That this is a problem that I have, and I want to try to fix it, and I think we should all try to fix it. Turn the mirror on yourself and look at how you say stuff and the words you use. I don't think we put enough emphasis on semantics, right? Like, you know when you're
That's
making
right.
an argument and people are like, you're just arguing semantics. And I was like, and a lot of times I'm like, yeah, that is what we're arguing. If we don't know what the definitions of the words or, you know, the definitions of what we're talking about are, how are we even having a conversation? Right? Like I use the example of the word a door, right? Like if we're having a conversation and I said I walked through a door, right? Depending on the context, it could mean a few different things. I mean, we could be having a metaphysical conversation, in which case the door is a metaphysical door. It's a metaphorical door, right? Or I could be walking through instead of walking through an actual door that opens, I could be walking through a threshold that's not really a door. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many different ways I could be walking through a door, you know? And unless you define the words that you're using, nobody's going to know what you're talking about, and creates divisiveness. Like, and this is something that I hope people stop doing, okay? And I know it might be asking a lot, but I really wish people in our community would stop saying the words anti-vaxxer and pro-vaxxer.
Yeah.
They are divisive words. They are divisive.
See,
I mean,
I agree with you. I agree with you. Sometimes I say them when I'm making jokes because I can't help myself. But I agree with you because that's not even really what it is, though. I mean, even like I agree with X more than I even do anti, because you know you had a X and the reason they're your X is because they did something wrong to you, and so you couldn't be with them anymore. So, you know, vaccines, they did my children wrong, so I don't do that anymore, you know. So I can see the X a little bit more than anti, because I think the anti comes in, number one, because of the circle slash kind of over the vaccine itself, and just kind of going back into protest history, everything is anti-whatever. But, you know, from the other angle of it, you know, you've got penicillin and tons of people have reactions to that, and we're not anti-penicillin. It's just a reaction, and you don't take it anymore. So, you know, there's several different ways to look at it. It's all kind of crazy.
Yeah, it definitely is. Listen, I'm cool with people using terms to define themselves. Like, I'm totally cool with that, right? But the problem that I see is that people will use words to define themselves or other people, and they're like, well, this is what it means to me, right? But they don't take into consideration what it might mean for somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And this community is a victim of that very problem. We didn't call ourselves anti-vaxxers in the get-go. I mean, we were, you know, like, that term was thrown at us, right? I mean, you look at history and you will see tons of examples where somebody else defined the group that was being marginalized, and nobody in that group liked it. So if we don't like it, if we don't like being treated that way, then why are we doing it to other people?
Yeah.
You know, like going around saying, oh, you're just a bunch of pro-vaxxer sheeple. You have not convinced anybody by saying that. You did not change a thing. In fact, you made the situation worse. Right?
Yeah, because people get butthurt, and then they don't want to hear anything else you have to say.
Of course. And that's break it down really down to like what happens when you say something like that. Does that achieve anything? It doesn't. Does it?
No.
I mean, I may be wrong. Does it achieve anything? Can someone like educate me on this?
Yeah, if you have a different stance, please call in. We'd love to hear your opinion. 319-527-6208.
Yeah, I would love to know, because that's the thing. It's like I don't see that kind of language and that kind of divisiveness and that kind of, you know, terminology actually doing anything to convince people of what we're trying to convince them of. You know, like, I mean, if when we were on tour and Craig Egan came up, and every time he came up, I was like, "What's up, pro-vaxxer sheeple dude?" Like, if I did that every time, I would have never gotten anywhere with him. You know, But people love doing that. People love doing that. I see here's the thing. After the show, I want everybody to go to their Facebook page, right? Go to their timeline and scroll through and look at how many times you use either divisive language or divisive posts, right?
Yeah.
And check the percentage out. How many times you try to actually include and be inclusive of people, as opposed to saying, well, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing this to us. And obviously there's examples where, you need to say, okay, well, like when we post things about what happened at ASIP, that's obviously like, I'm speechless every time I even think about what happened to ASIP.
It's really a really horrible thing. I'm not even kidding. And the fact that, like I said, I've told you, the doctors don't know it's happening. Like, our GP is very awake compared to most because he's 64 and he's seen a ton of the crap, but he didn't even know what ASIP was. And I'm thinking, I thought you guys were the ones that are supposed to be paying attention. People like me are the ones who aren't supposed to know these things exist. This doesn't make any sense.
It really, really doesn't. I'm baffled by things like that. It's like, what? Like, here's an example. Like, posting that doctors, for the most part, don't have a thorough education on vaccines. Like, that's a fact, right? People are like, well, isn't that divisive as well? To a certain extent, it may be, but it's also a fact, right? But putting up a post that's like a meme that goes, meme that's something to the effect of, pro-vaxxer starter pack, and then putting up a post like that doesn't actually help anyone. It's a laugh.
Yeah.
It's funny. That's great, but it doesn't help anyone.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to, like, clamp down on people's, like, humor and fun and laughter, because we do need to laugh about things. I get that, but we're in a very specific
I'm in
position.
trouble a little bit probably because I do that kind of stuff. The other day I said anti-vaxxers shed friends like the vaccinated, or anti-vaxxers shed friends like the vaccinated shed viruses, and that was kind of funny to me. But
that's actually funny, but that's funny, and to a certain extent, you can actually let that one go. Come on, you're not actually pointing fingers at anybody. You're kind of stating a scientific point as well, right?
I just said it in a funny way.
Yeah, exactly. But I think we're all kind of guilty of that. I think we all need to realize that we use divisive language. I've done it before as well. We've all done it, and the first step to realizing that you're doing something wrong is to acknowledge that you're doing it wrong. We tend to think, oh, well, we're awoke now, so, or however the term is used, and because I am, I now have, sentience beyond all belief, and I understand all things. And it's just like, no, you don't. We are flawed individuals. And to think that suddenly, because we understand this one thing, that we're always going to be in the right. We're just not. Lynette, it's almost like you and I talk about this every single time, but our community seems to be horrible at PR.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still learning this stuff myself. That's why I'm so glad you and I talk, because I've already learned so much from you. But I used to think that when you guys were on tour, when you guys were out with the Vax team, I used to get so frustrated with y'all because I was like, look, seriously, I've got Post-it notes, bumper stickers, like all kinds of stuff, and you guys had fans making those kind of things for you guys, but y'all were not doing them. And I was like, why is this not being streamed from the mountaintops? Every person you see in the gas stations, don't wait for them to come to you. You go to them. Like, you guys are the ones with the power right now, though. That's how I felt about it, because all they had to do was go home, go on YouTube, and see everything that you were doing. So giving them that information really built up the movement and really built up, like, giving people confidence to say, oh, my goodness, that's what happened to my family member or so-and-so or whatever. Like, it was empowering communities if it would have been done right. Sorry, my bad.
No, I'm with you on that. It's just, we don't think about, the intricacies of what we're doing as much as we probably should, right? I see this a lot in our community. We tend to be more preoccupied with the data and the information that we're pulling than how we're presenting the data.
Right.
And then that's a problem. And here's the thing, right? There's shows like The High Wire. There's shows like this one where we're having these conversations and we're trying to figure out the best way to get our ideas across and what we can do to get those ideas across. I mean, what I see a lot of people doing is that they'll cherry pick just the data from these shows. I mean, I've done it myself. Yeah. I'll watch a show and be like, oh my gosh, that's scientific study, hoopty-doopty. I'm going to go get that and I'm going to show it to people and everybody's going to suddenly believe what I have to say. But then I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I didn't pay attention to the fact that the person delivering that data also gave me a secondary tool with the data. They gave me a way to actually present the data. You know what I mean? Like if you're watching The High Wire, you're watching this show, you're listening to this show, listen to the words that we are using, listen to the words that people like Dell are using, and see how the ideas are actually presented. Because those are tools as well, just as much as the data and the scientific studies.
Yeah, that's true. That's the thing, too, though. And people think they can't get out and do any of these events if they don't have the science in their hands. And that's something that hopefully I proved wrong. If I did anything with my comment, I hope that it gave people who maybe aren't the best with remembering all those facts or don't want to have to come in there with 10 sheets of paper to get that part out there. Leave that to the people who are good at those kind of things. I'm not one of those people. I suck at remember. I can read all these books 5 times over again, and I'll remember enough that I understand what's happening, but I don't ever have enough in my brain that I feel like I give the information out as well. So, everybody's got their part. Everybody's good at something. It's like, I don't know. I feel like, oh, goodness, some of us just need to be out there telling our stories, telling what happened, and actually showing people the damage and doing those kind of things, too. Because I feel like Anu, I can't tell you how many messages I got that were seriously saying I thought I had to have the science to get up there, and you gave me the confidence that my story is enough and things like that. So, everybody just remember that, and we don't all have to be those people. We don't have to be everybody be Del Bigtree. We don't have to everybody be the Suzanne Humphreys or James Lyons Filers. Whoever you are, you bring something to this, and whatever your story is, it's important. And so just don't forget that. Sorry, I'd throw that in there.
Well, that's a great point. That it really is a great point. People need to realize that you have power as an individual. You are a powerful being, and that you have value. I know that sounds, chicken soup for the teenage soul, but you are a powerful being. You are a part of the community, right? You exist. Therefore, you actually affect reality. If you are there and you affect reality, trying to be like someone else is just propping up their, value in society or in the community or in that reality. You have a value of your own. Present your reality. Present your, the truth that you know to be true. And you will get out there. It's interesting to me that people. It's understandable, right? It's understandable that it's hard to say, "Oh, is my voice worth it? Is my voice really valuable in this conversation?" And if you have something to say, if you've been through an experience, or you have the science, or you are a great orator of sorts, then you have value, and you should go out there and say. Lynette, what you got up there and said at ASIP was awesome. They actually let you go on longer than they were supposed to, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They let me go a full minute and 6 seconds longer than I was supposed to go. I think they were all floored. Nobody's ever done that in there before.
Yeah, and that's great. That's great. And it's interesting because everybody should take that as an example. Like, you went in there and did something that nobody else was doing, and you were the one that seemed to be making the most impact.
Yeah. You know, and this is how you notice this. I'm just going to bring this up. I watched all these videos back. I watch all this stuff. Number one, this is the first time they still haven't put it up on the CDC on YouTube directly after it was filmed. I still haven't been able to find it on their website for them, which is unusual. It's usually days after it's done. But if you look at the people around, during the people reading science making comments, all of the Merck people, the people you could tell were pediatricians or doctors of some sort, were looking down. We're playing with their phones. We're picking at their faces. We're playing with their fingernails. When I got up there and spoke, those people were all looking up at me, and they would look down a little bit. They'd look back up as soon as I made a point that struck them. And it kept happening that way the whole time. They may snicker, they may make a face, but you could tell that those people in that room were listening. And they were not ready for that. And when I said, I'll be here next time, I'll be sitting right here, the little Asian woman behind me put her head down and looked up and then just smiled and shook her head like, yep, you know, and I don't even know who she was. But, I mean, it was just funny to see there were so many people in there either in agreement who were on the other side, you thought, and were like, they seemed to be like telling me continue and like helping me be confident in what I was saying, which was nice. But you could tell there was people on that panel who know this stuff, who are afraid to speak out, who want more people like me in there. They weren't doing the same kind of movements. They didn't even turn their chair around when the other people were talking. When I got up there, this woman literally turned her whole body around to listen to me and was sitting there like, keep going, like moving her hands at me, shaking her head, yes. Like there were other people, they were clapping when I was done. So that's what I say, like, it doesn't matter if you don't have the science. Get together. People come to these things, especially ACIP. This is where the actual decisions are happening. These people, if they know enough of us are sitting in that room paying attention, we don't have the data, we don't have the data, we don't have the data. They're not going to be able to just keep saying that and getting away with it anymore. Tell your doctors about these meetings. Tell your doctors to watch these meetings. Tell your doctors to show up and listen at these meetings. Like, help make awareness of this, because this is why I made such a big deal. This is why I had the Inundate the CDC ACIP group, because to me this is ground zero for what we're trying to do with bringing the change. This is where they are literally approving this stuff. This is where we should be. Sorry.
I mean, no, go for it. I mean, honestly, like we need to empower people in doing these things. Here's the thing that I really, really want to get to, right? Those of you that regularly listen to this show, those of you who regularly watch other shows and watch other YouTubes and Facebook posts by some of the other people that are creating content in this community, those of you who are regularly doing that, you are actually doing something, right? If you're taking that stuff and you're sharing it with people that have no idea what's going on and you're trying to get the word out there, you're already doing something. Contrast that just to bring it back to like what we're actually like the topic of today's show. Contrast that with how much time you spend not doing that, and then think about how productive you're actually being. You know, and we all need to do this. Like Lynette, you and I will do this. Let's do this ourselves, right? Let's go back to all our social media. Let's go back and reevaluate our interactions. Whether it be on social media or not, and let's really think about what actions are we taking to get the word out there, right? Yeah. And contrast that with all the times we spend dividing people, right? I mean, divide and conquer is the oldest trick in the book, right? I mean, it's the oldest trick. It's so old that like mathematicians even use the concept to deal with complex algorithms and whatnot. Like it's literally called divide and conquer. You know, where you divide the problems or the different parts of an equation, and then you solve those different parts, and then you bring the formula back together to solve it. I mean, what's that thing we learned in grade school? What was it? PEMDAS or whatever, the order of operations. I forgot the full thing. There's not any mathematicians in the listeners that know. It's like parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition,
right,
and subtraction.
Let's just go ahead and say this real quick so that you know this for the future, my friend. I don't even do simple math. Math is one thing I have never grasped. I can do science, I can do language, I can do any of that, but don't even ask me like plus and plus, minus, multiply. I don't do it. Calculators are my friend.
Listen, I'm not very good at math either. I'm really not. But like, those of you who are, right? Because I know there's some people, man, in our community that are dang good at math. They're really good at math. And think about what that means, right? It is an extremely efficient way of getting things done. And now, what the objective of divide and conquer is something that you need to pay attention to. It is going to be easy to dispel and to kind of neutralize what we're doing as a community if there's division.
Yeah,
it's going to be easy. And if you're feeding into the division, then it's definitely not going to help. And going back to what you started off the show with, Lynette, like where you started this morning with someone texting you that, hey, you need to stay away from this person or whatever. Yes, it might be good to warn people in certain situations, but there's a rule I kind of follow. I follow it loosely because you can't do umbrella rules for everything, right? But what I try to follow the best I can is that information is more valuable than confrontation. There are times where doing nothing will actually make it easier for that bad thing that's happening to go away. For instance, dealing with trolls, right? If you stop paying attention to them, they no longer have a viewership, and they will fade away. They will fade away into obscurity if you stop giving them the fuel. If you stop dividing people, then the people that will want to actually come together will have more energy to do that. My Facebook feed right now is overtaken mostly by division.
Yeah. It's sad to see it. Mine's the same way. I get so frustrated, but it really is. And we really do need to be building each other up. There's so much more, so many better things we could be doing. There's so much stuff that just really, seriously, guys, be there for each other, get to know each other, talk to each other, support each other. If you have local warriors around you, get to know each other. Actually hang out with each other. Don't just sit on the computer and be friends. Like, get to know each other. One day, crap is going to hit us, the fan is, and we all are going to actually meet each other. And getting to know each other might be smart. Just saying. I mean, it'd be weird for me to be hanging out with all y'all and not know who the heck you are. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be cool if we already knew each other a little bit. I'm not trying. I mean, I like to make light of things, but I mean, I'm being serious. Like, it's frustrating for me. I live around a lot of warriors too, and it's so hard. Anytime I invite people, they're not able, or don't want to get out there and do whatever. So I really hope that we start spending more time together, working together towards that big common goal. If there were people who were working hard as a unity in their community, seriously though, we could be making a bigger difference. And it's not so much even, it's not so much even how many people you really are waking up at this point as much as it is how much you're doing to bring a bigger picture. Like, I mean, really, we can't all go in the Senate and the Capitals and all these places. That's not for everybody. Like I said, we all have different things we're good at. I probably wouldn't be one everybody wanted in there. I mean, I don't know. But, it's just we all have different things. So please remember that in your unity, offer your gifts as well. And quit, seriously, guys, quit causing division. If you think somebody's horrible, go talk to them first. And then if you figure out they're horrible, then you can message me. That's cool. I like to know. But seriously, don't just that's planting seeds. And once seeds are planted, they're very hard to unplant because everybody starts saying it and everybody starts passing it along. And, before you know it, it's got way too big. So it's a bad idea. The person that was actually spoke about this morning actually says their name is proud and can be mentioned with honor at any time. Good for them. I'm really glad that they, are standing up, because it's hard. When you're the one under attack, it's not fun, and especially when you're trying to do the right thing. And it seems like, for me, at least in my personal life, when you start kicking ass and taking names, the rest of your life is going to start falling apart around you. It just seems to be the way it works. Same as they say, like a promotion at work, the rest of your life falls apart. It's the same thing being in the movement. When you actually start having things work out and fall into place, everything else seems to fall apart. It's just the way it is.
I just really want to like we've had this conversation now, right? I really want to go back to mentioning something that I did kind of in the beginning, but with a little bit of an addition. I personally, and I know you do as well, Lynette. We do work with people in the community, right? That we have real disagreements with. That even you and I, Lynette, we have some differences that are pretty fundamental to who we are as human beings, right? Specifically, let's just mention one, like on the religious side. You and I are quite different in that way, but we have found a way for the two of us to come together and do something that's actually going to help the community. I mean, think about how powerful we will be as a community if you reach out to someone in the community that you have a disagreement with and say, hey, how can you and I find common ground to actually keep fighting this thing? You know what I mean? Like, think about how much more powerful you are with someone you disagree with working together for a common goal. So I want to go back to what I said about how I define unity. I want to say that unity to me, before this conversation and especially after this conversation now, is really wanting to have conversations with people I disagree with to find common ground.
Yeah.
Take that with you.
Yeah, that's right. Awesome. Well, I'm going to have to move on with the rest of the show with Anita Nicole. She just popped into my dashboard. Anu, thank you so much for joining me for our first time of Case of the Mondays with Lynette and Anu. You guys will be back every Monday to start the show this way. It has been so much fun. I'm ecstatic. Thank you so much for coming on with me, Anu. You know I love you, man. And everybody, Anu will be back with me next Monday.
Love you too, Lynette. Thank you, everybody. Have a great show.
All right, we are going to go to a quick commercial break and help Freedomizer get these bills paid, and we will be right back with Anita Nicole. Everybody stay tuned.
Are you looking for a new place to shop, eat, and save? Are you sick of paying full price? Would you like to save money at the places you enjoy most? Well, here's a popular savings book that is full of coupons catered to your local area. It's called Save Around. This book is full of exclusive discounts to help you save money around your town. Yes, that's Save Around. You will save money at restaurants, department stores, cars, even flowers. When I take my family out, there are 7 of us. The average meal was about $110 to $140. Last time I took them out, and I'm holding a copy of the receipt right here, the check originally was $120. With the Save Around book, our meal cost $82 at a place we go to quite often. Who knew? And there are a few places we found that we are going to check out. View the books in your area before you buy. Go to freedomizerradio.com or barefootislegal.org. Just click on your city, and within a few days, you will be saving money around town with your new Save Around book.
You're an activist. You have a cause and an idea, but you also have lots of questions. You need help. After all, teams have coaches, Corporations have consultants, and even politicians have campaign managers. But who do activists turn to? The Solutions Institute. We are a collection of professionals and activists from across the political spectrum. Our goal is to teach, motivate, and put all the necessary tools for activism in your hands without charge. Learn more or submit your project at solutions-institute.org.
Vaccines are required for students, employees, immigrants, military members, and international travel. Do you know how to legally avoid them? This is vaccine rights attorney and Freedomizer radio host Alan Phillips. My vaccine exemption ebook can help you avoid the mistakes that have cost others their exemption rights. Get the authoritative guide to vaccine legal exemptions, an ebook available at freedomizerradio.com and vaccinerights.com.
Let freedom ring throughout the land.
Get ready for the epic new documentary adventure ride of your life. Shade the Motion Picture. Hub you into the globalist domain and embellish and Burma's film.
Nothing in this world works the way you think it does. Nothing. Governments do not operate the way you think they do. Banks do not do what you think they do. The police department is not here for what you think it is. Nothing in your world works the way you think it does.
We are going to let them know that their world government has been identified, and they thought they'd implode the world economy to bring in a worldwide police state, but instead it's going to bring them down.
You have to stand up, speak up, speak out.
Shade the Motion Picture. Order your copy of the DVD today at shadethemotionpicture.com.
All right, you guys, we are back, and you are listening to Forsaken Generation. I am your host, Lynette Marie Barron. You can find me on Facebook under that name. You can also find me under Forsaken Generation on YouTube and on Twitter, I believe. And I think you can find me even on Instagram under Lynette _ Barron. So I'm kind of all over the place. Beginning of the show, I had Anu on with me for Case of the Mondays. He'll be joining me again next Monday. But right now, I would like to welcome a warrior mother, Miss Anita Nicole, to the show. Can you hear me, Anita?
Hey, hi, Lynette. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. I've actually been trying to get you on here for a while. I'm so glad that you are free today and able to do the show because what happened to you is something that I literally got goosebumps right now even thinking about this. People, y'all all need to really listen up. This could be you. This could be your baby. This could be your life. So you really need to listen up because this is about the scariest story since I've been in this movement that I have ever heard. So, Anita, actually, I want to start at the beginning, girl. What happened? I know you're a nurse. Am I correct?
Yes, Lynette. I'm a registered nurse and a mother of three children.
Okay, so you are already actually someone in the medical system as well, in the medical field. So for this to happen to you and your child, honestly, is even bigger shock to me, to tell you the truth, just because you're kind of one of their own. So that's already. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean you're a nurse. I mean, nurses and doctors, you know what I'm saying. I mean, you guys all are supposed to have each other's backs and work together here. So, it's really kind of scary that this is the way things went down. They're supposed to, but it looks like when it comes to covering your AS, I guess they will go to the extreme, which they have. They've gone to the extreme, the unthinkable. Yeah. So if you don't know who Anita Nicole is, her story has been all over Facebook. But if you're someone who just tunes into my show each week or someone who's new to Freedomizer or something like that, Anita has a very unique story. So I'm going to tell you, Anita, I don't want to share what happened. I want you to share what happened because this is your story. So tell me from the start of, when you took her in and these kind of things, how this all happened, how this all went down.
Well, from the beginning, Aniya was born. I didn't know about vaccine injuries, and I didn't research the ingredients. So whatever they gave her at the hospital, I fully trusted the doctors and everyone, and that was one of my biggest mistakes in life. They taught me in nursing school that vaccines are safe and effective, and I realized that is not true, and there is no science or any vaccine safety records behind any of that. Fast forward, after Aniya was born, and she was given the, I believe it was the vitamin K shot and the Hep B, I brought her home, and she did have these, her eyes, like her sclera wasn't white. She had these red, like these reddish veins that you could see, arteries behind her white sclera. And I thought that was pretty odd. My other two children, they did not have that. Well, I thought, okay, it'll go away. I never thought maybe the vaccines could be the cause of any of that. Thinking back now of what I know and what I've been through, I believe that it caused abnormal. Mm-hmm. I took her for her 2-month shot. After that, a few weeks after her 2-month shots, it seemed like she started getting sick, and she had a double ear infection, a cough, congestion, and a cold, some runny nose, and fever. Took her to the clinic. They gave her amoxicillin for 10 days to help with the ear infection. And then by the time you know it, it was already time for her 4-month vaccines. We're already going into December. Well, I missed that appointment because I knew she had a weak immune system from just getting off of the, since she was getting sick. I missed that appointment, and then after getting the antibiotics, going in at the late part of December was her rescheduled 4-month appointment for the well baby checkup. I took her and my son, because he had an appointment that day, for his Gardasil vaccine and for some refill on his prescription medications that he took for school to help him focus. And well, I knew what my kids were there for. The doctor had come in on her cell phone talking with her mother, and then that conversation ended and her phone rang again. She answered it, and it was her husband, and then they spoke, and then she hung up, and then she was revealing about the new coffee shop that her and her husband were excited about opening in town, the second coffee shop. And she was, at that point, she was asking me to go ahead and bring the baby to the table, the medical exam table, and to, Mom, go ahead and hold Aniya because it was time for her shot. And me not double-checking what's in the envelope or not double-checking any of the medication labels, I had been to this doctor for 14 years. She was like family to me, and I put my full trust in her, and I expected her to be professional and look at the labels, which takes a second or two to see what she was injecting into my newborn baby. That didn't happen. She assumed that everything in the envelope was for my daughter, and she grabbed everything and very fast and routine-like wiped my daughter's sides with the alcohol and then grabbed every injection and just shot it into her one by one. Everything was given. Never looking at a label. I was too busy watching my daughter, holding her from the arms, and they were holding her from the legs.
Yeah.
I didn't what the labels were. So at that point, I grabbed her. She's crying. I started breastfeeding.
Hey, hold on. I want to say something real quick, Anita. Please, just for your own sake, baby, don't hold on to that part so hard because it's not your fault, and you didn't know. And it sucks, but we were all there, and I didn't know, to look, and I didn't know to read it. And at some point, I just feel like there's still a lot of weight in your voice when you say those parts. So please forgive yourself because those people, they're not thinking about that, and you're holding a piece of you, and that's bringing you down, and that will affect you. So I just wanted to say that real quick because I can hear it in your voice, and you're going to have to forgive yourself for that one because it's not your fault. It really is not your fault. You were raised and trained to believe in this, and you did just like all the rest of us did. There are millions of us, so just forgive yourself. I'm sorry. Go ahead, girl. I just had to say that because I could hear it in your voice.
Thank you. I'm trying. It's one of the hardest battles of mine is to forgive myself for that fateful day, and just to forgive the ones that have done this evil wrongdoing. It's been a battle of trying to forgive them. I know that's what the good Lord wants me to do, and I'm really trying.
Said, let him take vengeance. Let him take the vengeance.
Yeah.
They're holding a piece of you that they don't even know they have, is my point. And you don't need to give them that because you got too much work to be done. You don't even need to worry about it. You know what I mean? Let you, girl, I don't know. I just see such strong power in you. You are such a strong woman. Those people hoped that when they did what they did to you, you were going to be quiet and sit down somewhere, sitting on your hands with your mouth shut. And they were wrong. And thank God they were wrong, because that baby actually has a fighting chance because you're her mother.
Yes, she does. We're bringing them down all together, and Aniya's army and warrior supporters, and we're all joining forces, and we're bringing them down.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your story. I just had to get that. I just had to say that. It was coming out of me. It was like bursting. I had to get it out.
Thank you, Lynette. So she was given everything, and I started breastfeeding her right away. And she was, starting to suckle on her breast. I mean, on my breast. She was breastfed baby, and she seemed fine. She was feeding. That's what always comforted her and soothed her, and it made everything better for her. So she was feeding, and then it was Alfred's turn, my son. And so the doctor turned to him and started asking questions, how he was doing, with his medicine, and refilled the prescription, and then said it was time to go home, and, y'all can leave. Y'all are done for the day. And she was getting out 15 minutes early, and I was dumbfounded because I said, well, he's got that shot. It's on the calendar for the Gardasil. And originally I had given him, the first shot he had gotten was at the health department. And so but when I took my daughter and I to her 2-month shot appointment, I revealed to the doctor that that the health department had given my son the Gardasil. And that's when she had said, oh, well, you need to just bring him here to my clinic, and we can give him that here. And I said, are you sure? And she goes, yeah, it's no big deal. We can give it. Thought, okay, and she was trying to save me a trip from going back to the health department. That way I would just bring my kids over to her, and with Aniya's appointment, my son would get his Gardasil. So that was the only reason why both my children were there being seen together, was because of her insinuating that I not go back to the health department, that I go to her office for this second shot, which I did, and failed miserably, negligently. So as we are going back and forth, and she's telling me that he's done and it's time to go home, and I'm telling her, no, he's not done. He's got a shot that you ordered and that I wrote on the calendar, and he's here for this shot. And so she says, okay, let me double check. After going back 2 or 3 times, her nurse checked the laptop, and she said, sure enough, my son was due for his Gardasil shot. So she says, I'll go send the nurse to go get that. And they walk out the room. When they go confront the nurse that had put everything in the envelope, the nurse revealed to the doctor that the Gardasil shot was in the envelope, and that they were short one of the baby shots. They didn't have it in the med room, so they were short one shot for her. And she just went ahead and threw both patients' medications into one envelope, and the doctor didn't look at the labels, so everything got injected into my baby. At this point, God. A nurse comes running in with the shot, and she gives the shot, and she gives the shot to my son. And then as I'm packing all of our belongings, saying it's time to go home, the nurse asked me to please wait. And I asked, for what? She said, the doctor needs to talk to you. And I said, about what? It's time to go home. This is all we were waiting for. He's getting off early for the day, and I want to go home. I said, can you just please wait? Please, the doctor really needs to talk to you. And I said, okay, I don't know about what, because she said it was time to go. So I sat back down, started playing with Aniya, and then it seemed like hours, but it was probably about 20, 30 minutes later, the doctor comes in with her nurse behind her, and as soon as she comes in, the first thing out of her mouth was, there's been a medication administration error. And I was like, what? And that's when she revealed that Aniya had received Alfred's injection. And I just couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. And I was crying. And I couldn't believe how could that have happened. And I asked her, how did that happen? And, what's going to happen? And, oh, my God, I can't believe this happened. And I'm just freaking out. I'm all kinds of emotions. I'm pretty hysterical, very emotional. I'm in fear for my daughter, her health, and her well-being. And she's reassuring me that everything's going to be okay and that this isn't going to cause any brain damage, and that she has called poison control and that they're aware of it, and that she called the maker of Merck, the pharmacist of the maker of the vaccine. And she's just telling me that everything's going to be fine, but here's the Gardasil insert. Watch out for any adverse reactions. Here's my cell phone number. Never had a personal cell phone number. For 14 years, I never had that woman's cell phone number. But she gave me her personal cell phone number. And she said if I noticed any change in her color, or appearance, or behavior, or anything abnormal, any little thing, to bring her to the emergency room right away and to call her on her cell phone number, is what she told me. And here's the insert. Look out for any of these things. I was still in shock, and I did take the cell phone number and the insert, and I was still like, but I revealed to her, and I had already lost weight, and I kept thinking, Aniya's immune system, she just got over this ear infection, and here I am giving her shots, and now she's got a medication error, and we don't even know why she had lost weight from, before, which they had this on record. She had lost some weight, and they knew that she had an ear infection and just that her immune system wasn't up to par, and here they are giving her an overload, just a massive overload of vaccinations, including an adult-sized medication on top of it, and then they're going to send us home with an insert and a cell phone number. So
they should have sent you straight to the hospital. They should have sent you straight to the hospital. Like, that should have been the number one thing that where they messed up. Okay, they messed up from the start when they gave her the wrong vaccine, but when they realized they had made that error, they should have been like, look, you need to go to the hospital. You need to take your child now, and you need to go in, and they need to monitor her. Like, that should have been, but they don't want to do that because then they have to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, because then they'll have documentation and evidence on file of an adverse reaction.
Yep.
And they don't want that. I didn't realize that then, or I would have just taken her. And everybody kept telling me, take her, why aren't you taking her to the emergency room? And I kept telling everyone it was because I was following instructions from the doctor, and that I had the insert, and that she had explained everything to me, and I had her cell phone number, and I kept saying I'm following the orders given to me from the doctor. Yeah. So everyone couldn't understand why I wasn't taking her. Well, we went home, and I monitored her like a hawk. I watched every single thing. She seemed fine. It didn't hit until that was on a Thursday, and then Friday afternoon, Friday evening, about 24 hours later, she started getting warm, and she started getting a fever. So I gave her Tylenol. And then by Saturday morning, it had already been 36 hours later, and that's when she woke up the next that Saturday morning, and she was just a different, completely different baby. He was pale. He was weak. He had what they call floppy baby syndrome, which I had no idea what that was at the time. I just knew that her trunk was weak. Her extremities, upper and lower, were weak. Her eyes seemed very just abnormal. Everything was abnormal about my child. So I got her dressed, and I got my children in the car, and I took her to the emergency room. And I told the doctors what had happened. Well, that's their colleague. I didn't take her to the opposite hospital. I took her to the hospital that's supposed to focus on children, DTAR North, Women and Children, and that is where that doctor works at. So that's their colleague. So they called her phone number, and they told her, hey, we've got your patient in here, the one that you gave the Gardasil to. And they kept asking, how did she give the Gardasil? How do I know? And how did that happen? They were more interested about how the Gardasil was injected into my 4-month-old daughter versus her appearance and her assessment that they were supposed to be helping, investigate. They were more concerned about the story. And they did a flu test and a strep test, both negative, but they didn't run any blood work to make sure that she was okay. They just said, go home, give her Tylenol. If she's got a fever from the vaccines that she was supposed to get and other vaccines she wasn't supposed to get. And we're looking at the fear of unknown is what Dr. Poplowski told me. The fear of the unknown. But go home.
That's what they did to us too, girl. That's what they did to us too. They called it idiopathic, and they sent us home. And they were like, they don't care. They don't care. They'll take yours and say, it's not a kidney, or, it's not a bladder infection or whatever, and you're good to go, and take Tylenol and Motrin every couple hours, and interchange them. Your child will be fine. It's like, I don't think so.
No, they don't want the evidence documented in their records. They don't want to report it to VAERS. Just like you said, immediately after the vaccine overdose, they should have sent her to the hospital to be monitored and under observation, very close observation.
Yep.
They should have contacted the vaccine adverse reporting event system, and they didn't. Nobody did any of that. They hid it from day one.
Hell, they should have called the FDA and asked them what they should do when something like this happens. What's the protocol for when we give a 4-month-old the wrong vaccine that's meant for a teenager? What do we do? Like, there should be some kind of protocol for that. And instead it was like, go home. Go home again. Whatever, it's in your hands. If she croaks, it's on you. Like, that's really how they treat you. Our daughter was going septic, and it was like, we can't do anything for her. Take her home. It's like, I don't think so. I'm not leaving.
Exactly. They sent us home and said, give her Tylenol. Come back in 2 days if the fever continues. Well, the fever continued. We were back in 2 days. And they did, again, no blood work. They committed more negligence against my daughter. And
they should have been looking at her counts.
Yep, and they did.
They should have been looking at her. Yeah, they should have for sure. Platelets, all that stuff should have been checked.
They didn't look at nothing. The only thing they said was that her flu and strep was negative. And if I wanted to run another flu and strep test, I said, no, for what? Or strep. And something has happened with this error, this medication error. They didn't help. So after that,
and here's what's sad too, Anita. Had it been any other medication error, had it been any other thing besides the vaccine, they would have been on it. They would have been like, this is what happened. It was the wrong medication. We got to do this to counteract it. We got to do this. This is how we handle this. That's what would have happened. But because it was a vaccine, everybody looked at each other like, scratching their head. What the hell do we do? We just pretend this didn't just happen, and we'll figure out what. Let's go in the other room. Don't talk in front of the mom.
Exactly. There was a boy at Stroman Middle School who took a Seroquel and he downed it with a Coca-Cola. He was found asleep, passed out on the steps of the middle school at the campus, and we had to call EMS. And when he got to the hospital, he his friends or somebody has, I think when he woke up, he had revealed it was a Seroquel that he had taken. Well, they lavaged his stomach and they were on him like, they made sure he was okay. And he just took one Seroquel. One pill.
Jesus.
And here my 4-month-old gets injected with a massive toxic overload of medications, and they say go home and give Tylenol. Like, what? But you're taking care of a teenager who downs one Seroquel better than you do a newborn baby that's given an overdose of drugs. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. This medical mafia is a nightmare.
It's insane. And they're talking about passing the same vaccine for children her age. That's the part that's really scary and really mind-blowingly insane. If they want to pass the Gardasil HPV vaccine for infants and for little children because they can't tell you, hey, that vaccine really just jacked me up. You know what I mean? These teenagers are talking. These teenagers are going, it's getting louder and louder and louder coming straight from the horse's mouth. These teenagers are speaking out because of Gardasil. We've got a lot of teenagers in our movement. And, they're infertile. They're paralyzed. They're one thing or the other. It's something. Some of them on ventilators. Some of them, hell, we had one of them that was a very big, made a big impression on our movement named Colton. And this poor young man ended up unplugging himself from his respirator in the middle of the night in order not to be a burden to his family anymore because his parents still had 2 other children to raise. It's insane. It's so sad. These are the things that are happening. As I said, your story is one hell of a unique story. And God, Jesus Christ, please save this Savior, bring her back home to her mama, get her out of those hands, because that is something I've been praying every single day for you. Anytime I think of your name, see your name, think of something, you have been heavy on my mind and heart because this is a big deal. And I want everybody listening, you saw the sign that I made. I am not a beautiful woman. I've lost tons of weight. I'm sickly looking, and I still went outside, did a sign because I care about this woman and this child enough to put myself out there. Please go do the same thing. This is important. Show your support. God forbid you're ever in this position and you need somebody to have your back. I hope everybody has mine if I ever have them knocking on my door. Please, everybody, get out there and show support for this. So let's get Aniya home. All right, let's continue with everything going on. I'm sorry, but sometimes I get these feelings and it feels like I got to say what I got to say.
You have to. I'm glad you are, and I really appreciate it. It's been a nightmare, and this is his testimony because it's a cross that I've been given and that I've got to just keep carrying, and I feel like he's using my voice and Aniya's story to help others. I know that her story has helped so many other babies in utero and when they're brought into the world, and even after when they get home. They're being saved by their parents are now refusing vaccines. Their parents are now investigating this ingredients in the vaccinations. The parents are now demanding inserts. The parents are now putting their foot down and saying, wait a minute, we don't want to be like that mom, and, we want to look into this a little bit more. They're on my Facebook page, and they're looking. They may not comment, they may not like, but they're looking, and I've spoken to them around the community, and they have come to me and told me, thank you. I don't vaccinate because of you. I don't vaccinate anymore because of your story. And they'll say, you don't know who I am, but I looked on your page, and I saw some things that you posted that really opened my eyes to making me look into what these vaccines are and what they do, and I no longer vaccinate my son or my daughter because of you. And so that's
it's powerful. That's powerful. You gave me. I'm serious. You keep goosebumping me up, girlfriend. That's so powerful though, because everybody keeps showing that support. Keep getting out there doing those things. But for real, your story is so unique though. Right down to that. Because parents really who have a hard time even believing vaccine injury is possible will understand your story because this was the wrong vaccine to a child. So you are able to bring other people's, awareness levels up who may not ever have even batted an eyelash of what someone like me is saying. So you have that angle as well. That, I mean, you're bringing change that is a different type. And I'm sorry you have to go through this, but everybody has been chosen and is put in this place for a reason. And you are right. Your child has saved a lot of children. Now it's to get her back home where she needs to be.
Amen. Yes. She needs to come home. This is long overdue. You know, when they removed my daughter, it was they didn't even have any grounds to take her, and that's a lot of things didn't come out in court for whatever reason or not. I mean, it's likely, in my opinion, I believe they were all in cahoots and cooperating together. I believe my daughter has already been sold. And that is a nightmare, a new nightmare itself, and that's something that I'm tackling because it's a CPS nightmare. And I used to be the parent that thought CPS was about protecting children, and I know now firsthand that they cover up their ass just as much as the medical mafia. And
that's right.
And I'm exposing them. Every day I am exposing them for what they are.
There was some law made that they're allowed to lie if it helps them in a situation where they think the child is being abused or has been abused. So right there, that's insane. I'm serious. I'm going to find it for you and send it to you because it blew my mind. Because it was like, here they are, they're allowed to lie as long as they think they're lying in the best interest of the child. And it was like, that's bullshit. You either base this crap off evidence or we ain't got nothing going on right now. I mean, it's a crazy world we live in. I grew up in this system. I grew up from, 4 to 18 watching kids, come in and out of the group home I was in and seeing how some of these kids may not have needed to be taken from the situations they're in. Some of them did. But, it's a trip to see how involved the government really is and how much deeper it has gotten in the years that, since we've grown up and become adults and had our own kids. And, like I said, you coming from, a medical background, it is a really, really, really hard reality check because this is like, I mean, seriously, though, at some point, nurses are the ones a lot of times and doctors who are calling CPS on parents, who are making these problems for parents who really are just trying to act in the best interest of their children. Be it, I don't want this medication, or I don't want my kid to have this surgery because I don't think it's necessary, or whatever. We got into it at one point because they weren't going to remove 2 of my daughter's bad teeth from her bottle because they wanted to do a tonsillectomy and adenoid removal on her, and I refused it because I had already made all those problems go away naturally. And they still didn't want to move forward with removing her teeth because they wanted to do the other surgery. And I had to fight and fight and fight just to get my child her teeth out, and not get a surgery she didn't even need.
Exactly. If we're not standing up for our children, who will? We can't advocate for them and be proactive for them. Who will? Who's going to do that for them?
And stand up for each other's children. That's right.
Yes.
Stand up for each other's children. Have each other's back. I wish I was closer to you because I would try so hard to help you a lot more than I'm able to from where I am. And if there is something I can do from where I am, let me know because I don't mind. I feel like this is a big deal, girl, and I just want to hear that baby is at home. I mean, so what's going on with all this information withheld at your trial and things of this nature? I've heard something going on with the lawyer now. I don't have this big. I want to know the real story from you. So what is going on with all this stuff, sensor injury and stuff like that? What's happening?
Well, they're all trying to cover it up. They don't want the truth on the record. And so it wasn't very clear. My attorney had information and evidence to exonerate me and prove that it was a groundless removal from the very beginning. He was aware that Texas Children's found and discovered Aniya's pituitary cyst and adrenal insufficiency, and she had also emergency life-saving medications if she ever needed them. All of these things were ignored. They may have mentioned the pituitary cyst. They may have mentioned the adrenal insufficiency. They never mentioned the ordered life-saving medications that were never given, is what the CPS is saying, that they were never given. But it's in the medical records. It's in the chart. And so none of this, that part wasn't brought up. And then when they did bring up the cyst and the adrenal insufficiency, it was like somewhere like, oh, she has a cyst. Okay, like no big deal. Oh, yeah, she has adrenal insufficiency. Oh, yeah, like no big deal. Okay, well, we have to explain what is the pituitary cyst and what can it cause. Well, the pituitary gland is a master gland in the body. We've got to think it does about 10 uniquely different hormones. Like if something's wrong in there, it can shut down the growth hormone. The growth hormone is bone and muscles. It controls you to grow, and so if that's shut down, then how are you going to grow? Another hormone is your sex hormones, like her ovaries. It can cause infertility. And, you mentioned earlier these teenagers are complaining about being, having infertility. Well, if their ovaries are shut down, that has something to do with their pituitary gland function. It's a hormone that's functioning, and if it's not functioning properly, it's shutting down. It causes premature infertility or premature menopause. Another hormone is a thyroid gland. It stimulates the thyroid. A cortisol, it's a steroid hormone. Well, what do you know? The pituitary is supposed to function, with the adrenal gland, and if it shuts down this cortisol or the steroid hormone, then that's exactly what's going on with Aniya. I mean, I'm not saying it's shut down, but something is not working properly with that hormone, with the cortisol, the steroid hormone, and the adrenal gland. That all affects her metabolism. It can affect a lot of things. They don't want to talk about all of that.
Just the combination shots that they're given as a child can do that, because it happened to my daughter as well. She was 15 months old when she got 6 vaccines. 2 were triples, and she had thrushes while I took her in. And for her, those shots did the same thing, girl. 26 days straight of fever. This child went pale as a ghost. Her body was limp. She couldn't respond. She wouldn't do anything. Her fever would get high as heck. They kept sending us home. They kept telling us it was on us to take care of it. It was us to figure out. I mean, same kind of thing. She almost died. When I finally got Children's to take her at their Center for Infectious, finally got the Children's to admit her at their Center for Infectious Disease, they had taken 13 vials of her blood, still sent her home, and I'm like fighting for them and telling them I'm not taking her home. Then this woman comes in and they start getting tests back, and she's like, you were right to fight for her. Y'all need to get home, get some stuff and come back. Y'all are staying. And from that moment on, it was test after test. It was mile-long bull crap, and I still didn't know what was in them. I still didn't know what was going on. And I literally was floored by the way everybody would avoid that one conversation. And it was like, I'm telling you guys what the hell just happened. I'm trying to tell you what just happened. Why is nobody listening to me? This is not idiopathic. This is not whatever the hell you're saying it is. We don't need 100 different damn blood works. Y'all need to listen to me. This just happened to this child because her immune system was down, and y'all did this. Let's take care of it. And they don't want to hear it. Literally, we went home, and with the same low numbers and the same problems we had, we just went home with drugs in order to try to stabilize her. I mean, it was just insane. So I understand your fight. I can only imagine what they were thinking about me. I'm sure they looked at me and thought the same thing at first, Anita. I'm covered in tattoos, and I was taking my baby in every few days for 26 straight days before they'd actually admit her. So I'm sure they were looking at me thinking a lot of the same things people have said about you, because I was not willing to give up the fight for my child's life. And I was not willing to quit taking her in because I didn't know how to save her. I didn't know what to do. And I sure as hell didn't want it on my shoulders without that knowledge. So I completely understand where you're coming from. I just happen to be, thank God, lucky enough that the support system that I had around me in those moments was big enough and praying enough that I don't know what happened. I don't know how lucky I got that at some point they finally started helping her and we started improving her life again. And we kept those people out. I don't know how we did that. I still have 2 nurses from that hospital on my Facebook page to this day who follow what I'm doing, who know what happened, who have become awake and have their own kid, pay attention now, who work there. So I think, God is on my side through this.
Yes, God is good, and there are some great nurses. There are some really good nurses, right. and that really do care. These nurses. There's nurses there that they're actually documenting, what the truth was, what was really going on. The doctors were saying one thing to try to get the child protection team's pediatricians to kidnap Aniya. And these nurses were documenting, and they were going up to bat for Aniya and I. I mean, you can tell in their notes that they are trying to get these doctors to stop what they are doing because they know it's wrong. And it didn't help because the doctors
we need more.
Yeah,
we need more people out there with power who will stand up for you and Aniya. Have you been to your local government type people in your area? Have you been to talk to your local state government type people, your mayor, your state reps, people like that? Have you been to actually talk to them and show them all your different documentation and show them what happened to your child and get some of them maybe on your side?
No, I sure do need to, and I
talk to DA Nico. You need to talk to him too.
Well, they're after him too. After he came forward,
I know they are. I know they are, but. This is what sucks, girl. This is what's so hard. We know that they have the money. We know that they have a certain amount of power, but what they don't realize is our force and our drive is what's going to win this thing because we're not giving up. We know a lot. We know what happened to our children, no matter what the circumstance may be, whether your child has autism, autoimmune neutropenia, injured by Gardasil, whatever the case may be, transverse myelitis, whatever the case may be, whatever happened, you know what the hell happened. You didn't just all of a sudden wake up and go, I think today I'm going to turn against vaccines because it's the cool thing to do. It's what the cool kids are doing. That's just not the way this goes. And they don't see that. It's just that's what's so frustrating. I told Paul Offit that. I think that's one of the things he really had to actually agree with me on was us parents didn't just wake up and go, I think I don't want to do this anymore because it's a cool thing. I mean, you would really think that we have to have read a lot about this, excuse my French, but shit, to say I'm not going to vaccinate my kids anymore because I know that the risk is outweighing the benefits here. And then to dive into the immune system and realize all of this is a bunch of bullshit. It really is. It is a bunch of BS. Think about it. How in the hell is injecting yourself with sickness causing you to be healthy? Like, it's just not even rational when you really think about the big picture. We're so freaking brainwashed. So it's just, I mean, man, it is hard. It's so hard because your fight is hard because even the people who on the medical side who do have your back, who were your friends in that, they're probably still very indoctrinated. So that's you have a lot of obstacles you're up against.
Yeah, I do. And when you have God on your side, he fights for you because you can't be on a better side than the good side, So it's right now it's good versus evil, and evil is not going to win. It's the good Lord, he's got it.
I've got a verse for y'all today because y'all know I like to get Bible verses, and this is on my Facebook wall for today. I love to make my little mini verses and share them because I feel like everybody needs to be uplifted. But it is 1 Corinthians 1:10, and it is, I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree with one another in what you say, and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be perfectly united in mind and thought. And we really need to be paying attention to those kind of things and doing a lot more of that and having each other's back and trying to unite and not, I don't know, there's so many petty little things that go on. And I think that, there's so many people who even, I know you've probably gone through it too. When CPS gets involved, you got a lot of people who are too afraid to stand with you or too afraid to stand next to you because those three letters are scary as hell. But that's the point, you guys. You've got to get enough people standing together that they've got to feel threatened. They've got to feel the heat. They've got to see, wow, she really does have backup. She's got a lot of people out there paying attention to this. And so, until it gets a lot bigger than that, that's the hard part is getting people to be brave enough to do that. I know that I try my hardest to practice what I preach, and get out there and put myself out there.
And you're right, because when there are more eyes looking at this Aniya story, they canceled the entry of judgment, which is a good sign. The entry of judgment was they were trying to terminate my rights. They tried to terminate my rights last month. My rights are not terminated. That is something that I started filing. I terminated the attorney, Chris Branson, and my rights have not been terminated. Try them, but they know they don't. It's a groundless removal. I want to go talk and put the truth on the record, and they are keeping attorney Chris Branson on the record because that is their only way to try to not get my voice in that courtroom and say exactly what they do not want to be revealed at what they did. Because what they did is criminal. It's a violation of the law. It's illegal. It is treason. It is fraud. There is no meeting of the minds. It was a groundless removal, and they know they don't want me in that courtroom. So they canceled it when they started getting the district clerk's office was getting flooded with phone calls, and they realized there was more eyes on this story than they could have even imagined, and they canceled the entry of judgment. So as long as we keep having phone calls and complaints flooding in about the truth and about Aniya's story, and to let them know that we are watching them, call the district clerk's office, call the consumer affairs, call the office of the ombudsman, call the state officials, call, fax, email, not text, but make reports to the agencies that they need to be brought to this fraud and this criminal treason. That's what it is. We have documents. There is proof. The hospital at Texas Children's Hospital, they need to be heavily investigated. They need to be reported to the Houston Police Department. They need to be reported to the state, the state health department who oversees these hospitals and on how many violations that they have committed. The Office of Civil Rights needs to be notified. The Office of the Office of Americans with Disabilities Act, they need to be notified. The state bar needs to be notified because Aniya had an attorney that didn't do anything for her, didn't stand up for her, didn't do nothing for her. The people of CASA need to be reported because they also didn't do anything for an innocent baby. There is a long list of people involved in this sick cooperation of kidnapping, and they think they're going to get away with it, but they have some news coming because they messed with the wrong mama, because mama's coming, and we need everybody's support on this.
That's right. Girl, I don't know how
things are going to turn around.
I don't know how you are as strong as you are. I'm glad you are. I'm happy to even be your friend because you are one strong person. Because I gotta say, for me, you as a mother, in my head, girl, it's hard not to see myself curled up in a ball crying. And I know that ain't gonna get nothing done, but it sure is hard. I mean, I know, and I'm sure you have those moments. And just remember, I'm out here. If you ever need someone to talk to, if I didn't already, I'd give you my cell phone number because. I know it's hard, and I know you're going through a lot, and you might just have a day where you just need to rant and talk and vent and and I'm out here, because I hate that you're going through this, and I want to be as supportive as I can. And we're going to go to a quick commercial break, you guys, but when we come back, there will be more with Anita Nicole and talking about Aniya and her vaccine injury that has led to, all this horrible stuff. So we'll be right back, everybody. Y'all stay tuned. We got to help Freedomizer pay those bills.
You know the Constitution like the back of your hand. You've read books, listened to podcasts, attended lectures, surfed websites, and watched videos. You've made liberty your life's goal, but something seems to be missing. Stickers from LibertyStickers.com. Exercise your freedom of speech with the world's most dangerous bumper stickers. That's LibertyStickers.com. But wait,
There's more. You can buy Liberty stickers wholesale. Get them for 99 cents each when you put 100 or more in your shopping cart in any combination. Sell them or give them away. They're great for gun shows, flea markets, fairs, outreach, and more. Earn extra money, promote freedom, and spread the word. Need custom stickers, labels, or decals for your organization or business? Liberty Stickers makes them. Go to libertystickers.com to order or call 877-873-9626. libertystickers.com, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Vaccines are required for students, employees, immigrants, military members, and international travel. Do you know how to legally avoid them? This is vaccine rights attorney and Freedomizer radio host Alan Phillips. My vaccine exemption ebook can help you avoid the mistakes that have cost others their exemption rights. Get the authoritative guide to vaccine legal exemptions, an ebook available at freedomizerradio.com and vaccinerights.com.
Let freedom ring throughout the land.
Join me, Chris Levels, the host of Politics and Prophecy on freedomizerradio.com, the show that seeks to educate instead of indoctrinate, enlighten those that seek knowledge and truth while exposing lawlessness and wickedness within our society. Monday through Thursday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the time you can join me and my guest on freedomizerradio.com.
You never know when an emergency is going to happen. Whether stuck on the road, riding out a power outage, escaping a natural disaster, or surviving a doomsday apocalypse, what would you do? Disaster can strike at any time. Join your host, Nick Pierce, for Freedomizer's newest prepping and survival program, Are You Ready? Saturdays, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Listen to Are You Ready here on Freedomizer Radio. And be prepared.
Leaders, listen up. Do you feel like you can't get a dang thing done because of all the namsy-pamsy crybabies that want you to coddle their creativity? When you give orders, are you met with vacant stares only rivaled by a cocker spaniel? It's not them. It's you. You need to shape up or they'll ship you out. Read the Sniper's Guide to Leadership, and you'll become a more effective leader, communicator, and motivator. Forget SMART goals and learn SWIFT goals. Get the Sniper's Guide to Leadership in paperback, Kindle, and Nook. Today!
All right, you guys, we are back. You are listening to Forsaken Generation Radio Show. I am your host, Lynette Marie Barron, and we are live talking with Anita Nicole about what happened to her daughter Aniya and their story is about the most heartbreaking thing I have heard in quite a while, and definitely unique, and it helps the whole world really think this could happen to you, and you need to really be paying attention. Anita, welcome back.
Hi, thank you, Lynette. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening, and
yes,
anyone who's said a prayer for Aniya or have made their complaints and made their calls of concern. Thank you. We appreciate you. Any contributions made to bring Aniya home, anyone who's traveled to do a rally or a protest, I thank you. I'm so grateful for all of you.
That's very important to mention. I love that you have those people getting out there and coming to these rallies. Like I said, I wish I was out there, girl, because I'd be out there. I really feel like some people feel like protest and stuff doesn't do anything. I actually don't believe that. I do believe that it does bring awareness, and they realize we're getting bigger and bigger in numbers this way, and they understand that we're not just going to sit back. And that's something I think they really, for some reason, they're silly enough to believe that that's what's going to happen, and it's just not. Maybe they got away with it long enough because it wasn't everyone being affected like they are because the schedule was so much smaller back then. But now that the schedule has grown this much, every single person's getting injured in some way, shape, or form, whether you know it right then or it shows up years later or whatever the case may be. It's kind of crazy. I mean, they really don't stand much of a chance. I think the pharmaceutical company really is walking around with their tail between their legs just waiting for this shit to hit the fan. But, I mean, seriously.
Exactly. And we have the World Wide Web, Internet in the palm of our hands, and we're able to research, reach out, and to everyone's, their child or their own, their adverse reaction, their injury, and even these poor victims that have died because of these vaccinations.
Yeah. And lucky enough to have these doctors and scientists who have switched over they've lost their whole paycheck and whatnot. A 6-figure paycheck, some of these doctors that they've lost in order to come tell the truth because they just couldn't live with themselves anymore. They couldn't continue knowing what they knew. And thank God for people with integrity like that, because there's just not enough people like that with moral character. And we need way more doctors to stop being afraid. You're forgiven. You didn't know. So quit being, like you can't do it because you're afraid of what everybody's going to think of you, because people would think, wow, this person has integrity. They're telling the truth. I think so many of them are afraid because they're afraid their family and friends are going to look at them like they're, like a bad person or whatever. But I don't know. I just feel like, people really need to, and some people do, that's what we were talking about this morning with unity and division. But some people do act like that, which is sad, because they also do it to people in the movement who maybe even just woke up, or, talk to people, certain ways or whatever, however you want to say it. It's hard. I don't know. It's all pretty crazy, girl, but we really do have to get our act together in how we're treating each other and how we're talking, because if we could really unite and we could really get this stuff done.
We have good, honest doctors, and then we have bad ones that would do anything to cover anything and everything up and not reveal the truth about any injury or any adverse reaction. And those are the ones that need to be weeded out. We
That's
need more.
Like Senator Dr. quote unquote Richard Pan. He's one of those people who just needs to be able to walk away from both of those professions, go find a job doing something like at a donut shop or as a gardener or something completely unharmful to other people and other things or something. And I don't know.
Yeah.
He needs to do something different, because we've had enough. And like I saw the clip from the High Wire Dell played with all these women who were talking about the level of special needs rising and how 100 and something% of this was just autism alone, and how it wasn't like the mild autism but the severe autism and the people who had a lot of needs and a lot of things they couldn't even afford to take care of. And you see Senator Pan say, well, you people are wrong, and you're statisticians or whatever, like this idiot, like y'all don't know what you're talking about, and these people have been here forever. And so it just made me laugh, because you got Mark Blacksley who says, well, there'd be like 937 billion people with autism we somehow magically missed, if that was the case in the last 30-something years. So it's just, it's like your brain, it's like really like there's no thought behind what anything that Senator Pan even says, like saying that water is the most dangerous chemical in vaccines or whatever he wanted to say, most dangerous ingredient in vaccines because kids drown more every year or something stupid like that. It was like, do you really write this stuff down before you get on stage and really think about this before you say it? Because if you do, you really are an idiot. I would hope that it's just a mistake and it pops out and he's like, wow, that was stupid. But I don't think that even happened.
No. He's bad. He's bad for the world.
I'm sorry, for all the people in California. Sorry, y'all. You're in a free-thinking state, too. Like, that's the other part of this that really blew my mind, is that you're in Texas. And I feel like Texas has a lot of good qualities when it comes to our side of the movement. Like, Texas seems to be a lot more open-minded, and you got a lot of warriors out there. So, it is kind of hard to see. I hope more and more people start gathering and start doing more for this, like I said, because you deserve it, and this is crazy, and we need to get this over with. God only knows how much of stuff is impressioned already that this child's already had to go through, We want her home with her mother where she knows she's safe and she knows she's getting the food she needs and the things she needs and the actual medical care that she does need or doesn't. That's her mother's decisions. These are all her mother's decisions to be made, not somebody else who's running, doing something for the government. It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
So let's talk about what happened at the hospital. What happened at Texas Children's when you took her there? How did that go?
Well, I first took her there in February 17th, and she was there until February 24th. And they were aware that she had feeding difficulties. They were aware that she was refusing her bottle. She had an oral aversion to the bottle. She would not take her bottle. She was only breastfeeding, and she wasn't breastfeeding the way she was supposed to. Her oral motor function, or her oral cavity wasn't strong enough to suckle the way she once did before, and so therefore she wasn't getting enough milk and nutrients from the breast milk, and she wouldn't take a bottle. So they were ready to discharge us home, and I said, wait a minute. My baby is not feeding the way she's supposed to. You can't send us home. And mind you, we had already been to Victoria, my hometown, and no doctors had ordered blood work. No doctors were listening. No doctors were helping. So now that she was in the hospital and they were about to send her home, I said, she's not even eating a bottle and she's not eating efficiently through her breast milk. So why are you going to send us home? So then they let us stay, and they said, well, we'll send you home when she gains weight. Well, she didn't gain weight for 2 or 3 days. And so they recommended a nasogastric tube. And I wasn't really for it. I just wanted her to, magically take a bottle and breastfeed the way she was supposed to. So I was against the NG tube. I didn't want her to be on that. But I came, to the conclusion and reality that if that's what needed to be done, if that was going to get nutrition in my baby, then let's do it. So we did it, and then she was gaining weight, and then we went home, and about a week later, the pediatrician, Dr. Pathakonda at Airline Pediatrics in Victoria, Texas, decides to discontinue the NG tube and tells me the baby needs to feed by mouth. And I'm explaining to him that the hospital had ordered the NG tube, and that's why she had it. And he wanted to know why. And I said, well, because she was there at the hospital and she wasn't gaining weight. I mean, it's all in the history. Like, you can read her past medical history report that they faxed you and determine that yourself. I was very upset with them because this was the doctor that he hadn't ordered any blood work, he hadn't ordered any tests, and he hadn't done a medical investigation to help my daughter in any way, shape, or form when she had low sodium and was critically ill and needed help. So when I got back home, I let him have it. And I did not like him, but I was stuck with him because no other doctor would touch a Gardasil vaccine overdose, now newly considered a special needs patient. So I was stuck with Suresh Pathakonda, which I did not want. So we were stuck with him. So he ordered me to discontinue the NG tube, and he said if this was going to be his patient, then she needed to tube out, and if I didn't like it, I needed to go find another doctor to deal with. Well, no other doctor would touch my daughter, so I was stuck with him, and I went ahead and discontinued the NG tube. We got labs, found out her BUN was abnormal, and I said that's her hydration status. She must not be getting enough from the breast milk. So I put the NG tube back in, went to his office, and he said again, why does she have this tube in place? This baby needs to feed by mouth. You need to take her back and take this NG tube out and start giving her bottles and just keep offering her bottles. And I'm like, she's not taking it. She only breastfeeds. She won't take the bottle. And he said, well, you just need to keep trying and come back every 2 days, and we're going to weigh her, and we're going to see how it's working out. Well, it didn't work out. Every 2 days, she would gain just a little, and then we'd come back in 2 days, and she would lose. And it was the same thing. She would gain a little, she would lose, she would lose, she would lose. So by And this happened from March the 6th until March 17th. She was put back in the hospital before failure to thrive. This doctor was very much aware that she did not take a bottle. And there at the hospital, she did not take a bottle. So then instead of reinserting the NG tube like he should have done, he sent us home and said she was going to see a GI for why she's not gaining weight properly and endocrinologist for why she kept losing sodium for unknown reasons. And I thought, why are we going home? Why is she not being transferred to a bigger hospital so that way she could see these specialists? Why are we going home again? When you know that she's having problems, she's not taking the bottle. You're not giving her an NG tube. And now I'm to go home and let her suckle again on the breast, and she's not taking it efficiently, and we're just going to wait to see outpatient. And that's what got us in the hospital the second time? So guess what? We did that as planned. It put her back in the hospital the third time. So when we go back to Texas Children's, they remembered her from February, and they started looking at her records. They noticed that they overcorrected her sodium in February. They overcorrected it too fast, and that has adverse reactions for an overcorrection of hyponatremia, which hyponatremia is low sodium. When they realized that they made a medical error in February, they panicked. Was it in February or was it in April? Correction. It was in April, I think. Yeah, in April. When they realized that they didn't figure it out in February because they didn't study, they didn't do a thorough medical investigation, they panicked because they sent her home and they hadn't really figured it out why she was sick to begin with in the first place. So when she had come back in April, they overcorrected the sodium in April. So now it was a double whammy of their medical errors at Texas Children's Hospital. Not only did they misdiagnose her in February and send her home, but now they've overcorrected the sodium. And at that point, they ordered an MRI, and that's when they found a cyst in the pituitary gland. Mind you, they did a CT scan in February, and everything was clear. They didn't find a single thing in February. Come in April, when they made their medical error of an overcorrection of sodium and they ran the fluid in too fast, and now they find a fluid-filled cyst on the pituitary gland. And they don't tell me. They found it April 22nd, 2017, and when I asked how her MRI results came back, they said normal. They said, everything is normal, Mom. We cannot figure out why she's losing the sodium. We cannot figure out why she's coming back to the hospital, why she's not gaining weight. And they're looking at me like I have the answers when they're the ones that have the abnormal MRI results, and they're the ones that found a 5-millimeter cyst in her brain, and they kept it from me. What I should have done was I should have said, you said her MRI was normal? I'd like to see that, please. I'd like you to print that out and show me right now. But I didn't, because that's not the basic trust that we have in these doctors. And that's where we as parents and caregivers and guardians need to step up to the plate and start demanding these test results, demanding these MRI results, and demanding these lab results on hand. Once they get it, then they need to give it to you, my dear, because they are lying in those hospitals, they are lying in those emergency rooms, and they are lying in those clinics to cover their own ass. And you know what? That is not helping these children. That is not helping these children.
That's right.
So they lied to me, and they said her MRI was normal. And then because they had found a pituitary cyst in the brain, they ordered a cortisol stimulation test to test her adrenal glands, which I've already discussed earlier, sends messages with that pituitary gland. They test the adrenals with the cortisol stim test, and she failed miserably. What did they tell me when I asked how her tests are going? They told me that she had passed everything. They couldn't find anything. Lied. They lied again, not just one time, but they lied again. And do you think they told me about the overcorrecting my daughter's sodium? No, they did not. The way they told me was that they were running in the sodium very slowly, because if they run it in too fast, it can cause a bad reaction. It can cause side effects, an adverse reaction if they run it in too fast. And then they said that they were slowly running the fluids in my daughter, but they never said that they had made that mistake and they made that error and overcorrected it. And they never said they found a cyst, and they never said that she failed her cortisol stim test. So after all these findings, after a misdiagnosis in February, overcorrecting the sodium in April, and then finding a cyst on the MRI, and then having a cortisol stim test that failed, they contact CPS on May the 1st. And they said in their report that they could find nothing. Everything was normal. There's unfounded concerns. There's no organic cause. They couldn't find anything. Mom is 100% Munchausen by proxy, and Mom is to blame. We need answers. We need Mom out this hospital, and we need to test this child on our own so we can do our job and find out what's really going on. Is she sick or is she healthy? Well, at the end of the day, after those 2 weeks that they left her alone by herself, they said that she was healthy because CPS documented no disabilities, no abnormalities, and they said if the doctors find anything, we'll give her back to you. But if they don't find anything, then we need to investigate you. And then that's what was my understanding. So when it came time to give her back to me after the 2 weeks, they said, well, the doctors can't find anything. The doctors still can't find anything, so we need to investigate you, Mom, because the doctors can't find nothing. And every time she goes with you, she gets sick. So we can't give her back to you because she'll get sick, and that'll be on us if she gets sick or dies. So we can't give her back to you because she's a healthy baby, and she keeps getting sick with you for unknown reasons. And so that's how I started getting investigated.
Unknown reasons.
Unknown
reasons.
reasons.
Coincidence.
Nobody talks about the cyst. Nobody talks about that abnormal MRI. Nobody talks about the overcorrecting the sodium at the hospital. Nobody discussed anything about no adrenal insufficiency with some emergency life-saving medications. The day that they started investigating me is the same day in those medical records that hospital determined to give her emergency life-saving medications, stress, steroid-related medications, just in case she ever needed them. But they did not reveal that. CASA did not reveal that. The attorney ad litem did not reveal that. CPS did not reveal that. Why did Texas Children's keep that to themselves, or did they share it with all of these agencies that just cooperated with them to do this kidnapping? I don't know, but that's what I'm on a hunt to find out. And they're all about to get gaslit. They gaslighted me, and so I'm going to gaslight them right back.
This is so insane.
Thinking that I was just going to sit down, be quiet, and let them kidnap my daughter and do whatever they want to experiment with her. They've had enough experimenting. It's time to give her back. They've lied from day one. That's mine. That belongs to me. Nobody else can claim that property. That's my genetic property. The state cannot prove that belongs to them. The people that have her cannot prove that she belongs to them. Nobody can prove that she belongs to anybody but me. And until they can prove that I actually done something to her or done harm, then they have no right to kidnap her, because that
so
is
how
not.
Did you? I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish up. Now I got a question.
They say that they do things in the best interest of children. Well, I like to know how this is in the best interest of a child to withhold all of these medical investigation findings of the abnormal cyst and the abnormal adrenal insufficiency and the life-saving medications and this overcorrecting of sodium and the Gardasil adverse reactions, along with in conjunction to the other 4 months vaccinations that she had. I like to know how all of that is in the best interest of a child versus an innocent mom that they are trying to terminate and go adopt her so they can experiment and continue to making money, their own financial gain. They're benefiting for their own financial gain. And yet they accuse me for taking her and making her sick so I can sue the doctor that assaulted her, and I could sue the Texas Children's for misdiagnosing her in February. And so they panicked because they think I'm going to sue everybody, when all I wanted was to get my daughter well and healthy. So now that they've continued this kidnapping, well, why not sue everybody? They deserve it. I mean, this should not happen to nobody, and they are going to learn that they cannot do this to people. And if that's what people need to do is sue them to make their doing the next time, because it's not working. If they are not punished for their criminal actions, then, and even the judge, Jack W. Marr, I'm going to call him out too, because he is in violation of protecting an innocent, incapably, medically needy child. And I want his job. I want his job because he does not deserve to be up there. He does not deserve to be up there removing children when they are sick and a hospital is covering their ass on purpose, and so is Child Protective Service Agency, and he is just going to cooperate with the treason and the kidnapping and damage child's health because he's not listening and he's not doing what's right in the best interest of children. That's just, I mean, that's demonic, and it's evil, and he needs to lose his job.
Yeah, this is crazy. This is too much. I don't even understand how, girl, this system is insane, isn't it? You know, whenever we were in the hospital with my child, we asked them, they tested her for 130 plus different things, but every single time we asked them to test her for heavy metals, they refused. They wouldn't do it. And at that point, we didn't even know the heavy metals were in vaccines. We were actually asking because her father is a machinist type welder. Like, he works on the machines. He welds on things, a maintenance welder. And so, he fixes and works on all kinds of stuff, and then they have, like, the acid stuff, anodizing stuff. Like, there's just so much stuff that they do that, they, I'm sure, have a toxic load. And so to me it was like, I wanted to know if, like, when he came home and all this stuff was on his clothing or something, if that was going to her or something like that. I mean, usually he'd take off his top shirt before he held her, but I mean, it was just like that thought, is this in his skin? Is this transferring to her? Is this what this is? Because at this point, I was out of ideas, and they were really trying to convince me that what I saw happen wasn't what's happened. So I literally wrote on the board, if immunizations didn't cause this, what did? Like, I can't understand how that could happen, and then this happens, but they're not related. And, so, I mean, I was still trying to figure it out, but they would refuse that test and that test only. They would test for any cat scratch fever. I mean, anything else you said that fit some of her symptoms, you could be literally digging for anything. And I mean, it would be like, I think it's time to, ask this person this, and go, oh, okay, we'll do that, and they would. But if you asked about heavy metal testing, they would not do it. They refused. They refused every single time. And
I think what happened was they didn't like that I kept questioning what effect did that Gardasil have on a 4-month-old newborn baby. And they didn't like those questions. And I kept asking them, she's been hospitalized. This is the third time. After the third time, I had about had it. My daughter had already had an NG tube. She's being probed and prodded on with these needles, all the time to get her blood work. I had enough. I said, this is the third hospitalization. We have no answers. We don't know why she's not gaining weight appropriately. We don't know why she keeps losing sodium. We don't know why she's getting sick. We don't know anything. And after the third hospitalization, I want answers, and I am demanding answers, and I am demanding a safety study on this Gardasil. I am demanding more and more requests from these doctors that can't give me anything because they don't have anything. Not even the government has anything for the last 32 years. So how is this dumbfounded Texas Children's Hospital supposed to give me any answers when I'm demanding them and they can't even give me anything? And yet, what are they going to say to me? Well, we don't know. Government doesn't have anything for the last 32 years. So what do they do? They contact the CDC. Well, the CDC backs them up and writes them a little lovely letter saying that all the 80-something patients that got injected with Gardasil as a baby, that they were just all doing fine and dandy. And I said, well, really? Because if that's the truth, I like to talk to each and every one of those parents that their baby got Gardasil, and I like to talk to the parents. Where are the victims' phone numbers and where are the parents' information? I said, or you can give them mine, because I guarantee you there's more to the story than what the CDC is reporting versus what the 80 victims injected with Gardasil as a newborn baby or infant less than one is. There's more to the story than what they're saying. It has to be. other than, oh, they just had a slight fever and some mild swelling and that's it. No, that's not it. So I think what really led them to the medical kidnapping was I kept demanding answers that they didn't have. And they also were looking at, they hadn't contacted me for 9 days. When I got to the hospital on April 26th, she had actually had blood work done on April the 12th. April the 12th of 2017. Her core low, and she was supposed
I'm here.
to be. So they didn't call us for 9 days, but yet they make a report to Child Protective Services stating that if she goes home with me, that it would be not safe because low sodium can cause brain damage and death, and at very dangerous levels when left untreated. So they're basically saying the harm that they did for those 9 days. You feel me? Because they didn't tell me that my daughter needs to be put in the hospital. So when they realized that they not only misdiagnosed her in February, then they dropped the ball in April, and they didn't call her for 9 days. They didn't call me for 9 days about her low sodium. They realized that they are the ones that could have caused the brain damage. They are the ones that could have caused a grave scenario. If, God forbid, something would have happened to my daughter, it would have been their ass. So they panicked. Not only did they misdiagnose her in February, not only did they overcorrect her sodium in April, but they also didn't notify the parent that she had low sodium for 9 freaking days before she got to the hospital. I was already making complaints to the family advocacy department, and there was the family advocacy was making note of the complaint. So the hospital was aware that I'm demanding answers about Gardasil. I'm making complaints about not being notified. At this point, I'm just livid with the whole thing. Nurses were coming in here. They were going in the hospital room, and they were poking her too much, and then they were dropping the blood. You know, I would get very upset, because you're poking on my baby, and then you drop her freaking specimen on the bed. And then you got to poke her again to collect? Like, get out of here. So I was making complaints on some of the nurses that were acting negligent, and I was very upset with the hospital. And so they were looking at me like a threat, a triple threat. She is a nurse. We've messed up in February. We messed up by not notifying her for 9 days. And then when we got her back, we overcorrected the sodium. So then we find a cyst, and now we find adrenal insufficiency, but we're not going to tell the mom anything. We're just going to kick her out. And that's what they did. So people need to know not to go to Texas Children's and to beware at any hospital, any doctor, any emergency room, any clinic, and start asking for the MRI results, start test results immediately. If they have the answer, then you need a printout and you need a sewn eye. Because as Aniya's story, they lie. They told me that her MRI was normal. They told me that she had passed all her tests. They couldn't find nothing, and that they couldn't collect any sweat for her sweat test. So we were going to stay another week at the hospital. Well, we stayed another week, all right. We didn't stay another week, but I thought we were going to stay another week, all right. But in reality, what they were doing was they had us hostage. So that way CPS could run in and take Aniya and kick me out. It was already time for discharge. But instead, they tricked me. We were there to wait a week for a sweat test so they could rule out cystic fibrosis. And so I thought we were going to be there a week, and I said, well, why do we have to wait here a week? We could just do this outpatient next week. Like I'm asking them questions. And so they said, well, because if her sodium drops again, we want her to be here at the hospital. It's better for her to be here at the hospital when we catch her sodium go down than you at home. So I said, oh, that's a good rationale, why I should stay here, because I was ready to leave against medical advice and all. Said her labs are normal, she's gaining weight, her sodium's normal, her tests are normal, her MRI is normal. Why are we here? If everything's normal, why are we here? So then I was talking to them just like that. And they were like, well, because we want to do one more test. And I said, well, y'all did it, and y'all couldn't collect any sweat. So now what? Well, we need to wait a week. Oh, you need to wait a week. Can't we just come back outpatient? And they're like, well, no. If her sodium drops again, we'd rather her be here than at home. And I said, okay, well, that makes sense to me. So I'd rather her be here at the hospital if her sodium drops and be at home as well. So we'll stay. If I was in any way, shape, or form harming my baby, don't you think I would have been like, no, that doesn't make sense. I'm going to go home and harm my baby. Let me just take her out the hospital now so that way we could drop the sodium at home versus here at the hospital where y'all can catch me. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
they don't do
reason
much
why
that
they
makes
got
much
upset
sense.
No. The last other two reasons they got upset is because they wanted to start a Foley catheter in my daughter, and I said, no, why do we want to do that? And they said, well, we want to collect we want an accurate measurement of her urine. And I said, well, you're using it for your test anyway, so for the 24-hour urine, y'all can just collect it and put it on ice in the freaking bathtub. So why do we need to stick a Foley catheter in her, which is very invasive? I do not approve of that. Invasive catheter when y'all could just collect it with a bag and put it on ice. We're not doing that. What if she rips it out? What if she gets a urinary tract infection? I'm thinking ahead of time because I am her mother and I'm a proactive person, and we're not going to do that today. I mean, if she needed it and it was critical, okay, that'd be different. But no, you said everything's normal. If all her tests have been normal, why would I do something so invasive? If everything's normal, let's just keep doing what we're doing. Non-invasive things. And so the next one was they were checking our sodium every day. And as a nurse, we are trained to be our patient's advocate, and we are trained that, hey, if the labs are normal for, let's say, 2 weeks on end, then it's normal for a nurse to ask the doctor to decrease the amount of labs. They were daily labs. So it's normal for us to ask, hey, if everything's normal, can we just go ahead and do this twice a week, 3 times a week, not every day, not 7 pokes, plus if they don't get it, you got to poke again and again and again. So why do it 7 times a week when everything's normal? So when I asked about that, they didn't want to do it. They wanted to do daily sodium checks. And I said, well, then I'm just going to refuse because that's the kind of person I am. If I think it's better for my daughter, not daily labs, because her sodium has been normal for 2 weeks, then we're going to refuse. And that's what I did. And then I think that's the ultimate thing that did it. They didn't like that I refused. And then, what do you know? I got kicked out the hospital, and guess what her labs were for sodium? 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So they actually listened to me. They actually listened to my proactive advice as a nurse and as a mom. When I left the hospital because CPS kicked me out, they actually kept up with the 3 times a week versus the everyday labs. So you tell me that I'm wrong and that I shouldn't ask to decrease lab work, but then when you kick me out, you continue my request despite me not even being there? See how that makes a lot of sense?
Yeah. They're crazy.
There's so many things. I mean, they don't realize that I freaking practically have memorized my daughter's chart from beginning to end, and I know every single doctor that ordered everything and every single test, and everything is dated, and they can go back and try to alter the medical records. Oh, but we are going to have a field day when they do that because everything is already documented.
Yeah,
so they're in for it. They're in for it. They can go ahead and alter those, fabricate what they can, because that's what they're doing. The court, CASA, Texas Children's, all of the above, they're all scrambling right now. They canceled the entry of judgment, and they're scrambling to find something on me, so that way they can try to just they want something on me, so that way they can continue their treason and their fraud and their kidnapping. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
They like Scarface said, they say hello to my little friend. Yeah, Mama's coming. They can say hello to Mama's little friend because Mama's coming. And I'm coming with every bullet I got.
Yep, it's so sad. There's so much going on where we all feel like we have to just really, it's a crazy world we're in. And you really do have to know, well, shoot, girls, stay armed anyway. The world's a crazy place. But Oh my goodness. But I mean, they really do. They know they messed up. They know they messed up so big, and when they mess up, they don't care. There's no one there. You can't just call the cops. You can't say nothing. That's what we talked about your story last week, a little bit in the beginning of the show, and that's, I was talking about is like whenever they do this to your child. Like I went in with my daughter when she was 4 months old because her sister had a CBC that day, and because of her vaccine injury, is why we were there. And I told them, we're not there for Jazzy. We're not getting anything done for her. We're here for her sister, whatever. And the nurse said, well, let us hold her while you hold Lily for her CBC. So I did. They vaccinated her behind my back. I hear her start coughing and crying and going crazy. So I turn around, and they still got the needle in Lily's hand that I'm holding in my lap, so I couldn't even get up immediately. And the rotavirus vaccine had already caused her interception. And at that time, I had no idea that she actually had autism, epilepsy, all kinds of other issues that later on revealed themselves. So, right there, and I'm in the room with my back turned trying to help my other kid, and here's what they're doing. And you can't call the police. You can't call somebody and say this. When I go to the front and I'm freaking out, I call my husband to come up there. He comes up there. You can't call the cops. They're not going to do anything. They said, well, we won't write it down. We're not going to charge you for it. And end of story. I mean, there was no, oh, well, that's what happened. And she went right back into interception, right back into having a CGI doctor, go to the hospital, go through all this stuff. And they look at you like you're crazy. And it's like, are you freaking kidding me? My kids got mucus in their poop, blood in their poop. None of this was here before. My kid was fine. She was normal. It's like you're wiping her out. I mean, and the sad part is, most people know her story. I mean, I was given Tdap while I was 26 weeks pregnant with her. So that's why she's got severe autism and all these other issues on top of the problems they caused her when she wasn't even supposed to be getting vaccines. I mean, it's mind-blowing. And we're out here. And, I mean, that's why we get so pissed off. That's why we're fighting so hard. I'm just pissed off that they did this to you, that after all the mistakes that they made, that they then turned on you and made you the bad guy. And, I mean, anybody who has a conversation with you, you and I have been talking for almost about an hour and 40 minutes. And we got about 20 to go. And I got to say, you're a very sound and sane woman. I don't think that you're in any way crazy or have any issues. And by looking at your other children and your previous life before all of this started, I can see that this is an insane accusation against you to cover somebody else's ass. And the truth will come out. Yeah, the truth will come out. It'll come to light.
The only thing crazy about me is protecting my family and bringing out the
That's
truth.
Right.
If anything is crazy about me, it's making people laugh, protecting the truth and my children and my family. That I'm crazy about the love I have for my friends and my family.
We're a kid until you mess with our kiddos, and we become a cougar. We don't play. That's the way it works.
Yeah, Mama Bear
that
comes
really
out.
That's
real
right.
quick.
I'm the same way. I may look crazy, but I'm pretty docile. But if somebody messes with my babies, I snap. I lose it. I mean, it's just the way we literally are. We're at that point for us. It's like, I don't know any other way to be other than, we live in like a hyper-vigilant state. Everything we do, everything we know, everything we think has changed. And we know the truth, and it's like this hard fact. I mean, it's crazy. I can't go to the grocery store without thinking about the truth. I can't go outside and look at the sky without thinking about the truth. I can't, you know what I mean? I can't look at the dang yard where they spray down the front and kill everything without thinking about the truth. I can't. There's just everything is so tied in and related to the toxins and the poisoning that's happening, and the world has just been so blind. It's like, how can you close your eyes and sleep through this? Like, please, everybody, wake up before your child has to go through something like this. I implore you, I beg you, wake up before your child has to go through something like this. If you're listening today, listen to us mothers. We've been there. We have I pay to do this show. I do not get paid to do this. We have no other reason to take our time to save your children and to hopefully try to get Aniya back home. This is the goal. I know God is going to do this, but these are the goals. We are just having to fight a lot of times against the opposition and to wake up other people to save their children. This time, this mother has had her child taken. So we are fighting to get this child back. And we have got to get stronger number. If you are in Texas and you are listening into this show, please reach out to Anita Nicole. Please show her support. Please show up at these rallies and these things that she does. Please, guys, if this was your baby, you would want somebody standing next to you, standing beside you, and helping you hold your arms up. This is the way this goes. I beg you. It's so frustrating because I wish I lived closer. It's really, really rough to think that you're going through this, and you do need a lot more support. If you got a show out there, if you got an outlet that you can help give her more of a platform and help bring more attention to the story, please reach out to her. I know I have a lot of friends who do radio and do different things who listen in, so y'all please also reach out to her. This is not a story that needs to be shared once and then we'll click on it in archives in a couple of weeks. This is very important. This child does not need to be in their hands for a couple more weeks. She needs to come home.
Yeah, she does. She needs to come home today, immediately, right now. This is long overdue. This is just these criminals, they're being brought to the light, and we all just need to stand up against them and expose them for what they are, and everybody to show their support, because we don't want this to happen to anybody else. We don't want this to happen again. Nobody deserves this. Nobody deserves to have a drug overdosed newborn baby, and then when you go to get them help, they just they commit more medical errors on your baby, and then they turn all of it around and utilize a very evil agency that makes money taking kids for cash and then pocketing in their own financial gain, so they can just continue this lie to cover up medical errors for doctors. It's not right, and if it happens, then guess what? It's going to continue to happen to the next person and the next person and the next person. And if this keeps continuing to happen, it's going to be normal for them, and it'll be a case precedent. And we do not want this to be a case precedent. We need people to stand up and rise against the corruption.
They don't even know who to report these injuries to. These doctors have no idea who to even report the injuries to. This is something I learned when we were at the Children's Hospital, and I agree with you. Avoid Children's Hospitals. I hate this place. They're not in your interest. But when we were in, we didn't know better back then. When we went in there, and it's just a trip to see. I'm sorry. I get so frustrated with all this stuff, because it's like, you just really hope that these people will understand this stuff, and they'll know what they're supposed to be doing. And these doctors, he's like, who do I report this to? Do I report this to the FDA, to the CDC? I'm not even sure who I'm supposed to tell this happened, but I guess I should tell somebody. And it was like, well, yeah, I would guess you should tell somebody. And then there was luckily a friend of mine named Gio, who is also an English Mastiff owner, and is a friend of mine, and he was like, hey, you're digging in the right place. It's the vaccines. And he was the one who told me to tell the guy that it was theirs, that he needed to report it to. And I still don't know if they ever did. We couldn't even get the lawyers to tell me if our case had been figured out or not. So it's just, it's all pretty crazy stuff, and all of us have had these really jacked up stories because this world is a really messed up place, but we are all getting together to change that, and hopefully we can bring the change before our children are the ones responsible for changing the world. This is the sad part, is if you look back, you see people on our side fighting since back in the day, 50s and on past that. It's just crazy. Our warriors have been fighting a long time, but the difference is we're all uniting. And that is the difference, is we're not standing alone thinking we're one in a million anymore. We've wisened up, and we know each other is out there. So
exactly, I agree. We all need to rise up and take action in this movement, because this cannot happen to somebody else. This cannot continue. Doctors have no right to lie to a parent and not give them the information that they are entitled to per the Constitution and your civil rights. This is a violation of all of the above. This is a violation of the parental rights. They have no business telling a parent that everything is normal so they can create a false report to cover up their medical errors to an agency that has their own problems and issues and corruption. But that's the reason why they work together, is because they both feed off of each other. It's just, and it's like these poor children are a cash cow.
the court system gets a hold of them, and they charge for the attorney ad litem and the court, and everybody just makes money in there. It's very sad. They all make money off of the children. Senator Nancy Schaefer, who died, who's a Georgia state senator, was exposing CPS corruption before she was murdered, brutally murdered.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, and there's a lot of people who are doing big things, and we're trying to be make a difference, and I think that's the scary part for a lot of people who are speaking out. But you've got to realize that the more who speak out, the safer we are. I mean, that's the biggest key here. Is the more people who speak out, the safer we are, the better off we are. The more difference we're going to make, of course. But I mean, also strength in numbers, guys. Strength in numbers.
Yes, exactly. There's more of us than there are of them, and it's time that we join forces and unite and stand up against this corruption. You know, we're not gonna stand for this. This is abuse. This is neglect. They cannot be harming and damaging innocent children and ruining families who should belong. They belong together. They should have never been ripped apart in the first place. We're all standing up for the children at the border. What about the children here? What about the innocent parents and the innocent children here in America? Where's everyone standing up for us? It's not just at the border, guys. It's happening here in your own backyard. And we're asking to come forward, step up, message people, share Aniya's story, get the word out there. Don't let this happen to somebody else. Don't let this happen again. Keep sharing her story. Put it out there. Do what you can to get help. Anything, a prayer, a contribution, sharing the story.
And I know
making a phone
all
call.
y'all are prettier. Yeah, all y'all are prettier than me. So y'all get out there and make those pictures and put her story up on them and hashtag them and get them out there. If I could do it, y'all could do it. I look like a hot mess.
Oh, you look great, Lynette, and I appreciate you doing that sign for Aniya, taking that photo and posting it. We've shared that thing, and everyone, thank you for making those signs. Thank you for sharing. They don't have it. They don't have a case. This whole thing was based on fraud. You know, they don't have a case.
They know they don't.
Groundless removal. They know they don't, and that's why they're scrambling. And they're about freaking out right now, and I don't understand any of them. You know, I don't comprehend why they have, because she doesn't belong to them, and they can't prove that, and they can't even prove
everything in my gut. I have good intuition, and everything in my gut tells me that those prayers are going to be answered, and that she's coming home. I do. I feel that. I feel like this was something that the Lord put you through because he needed you guys to help to be a part of something for a bigger picture. And as crappy as it is and as crappy as it sounds, it's like that's how a lot of us ended up here, was he knew he needed to pick the ones who would really be the warriors for this. And, I mean, your story teaches such a valuable lesson to everybody. And because it could be anybody. You guys, she's a nurse. She is a nurse. I mean, it could happen to anybody. This is the part that people don't understand. This is what makes me so mad when I see this kind of stuff. Is people in this movement treat doctors and nurses and people so horrible and talk so much stuff, bad things about them. And it's like, look, these people are just miseducated, just like we used to be. That's why it's so frustrating. It's like you can't down people or treat them horribly because they didn't know. That is so unfair. It's like being mad at somebody because they didn't believe in whatever religion before they understood it or believed in it or whatever. Like, you can't do that. You can't be mad at somebody for something they don't know. So, I mean, everybody treats it with respect. Yeah, and I don't care if you've been a part of this for a minute or for 10 years, you can help be a part of the difference. You can help get out there. You can help do something. Don't be afraid. Don't let fear drive you. So many people let fear drive them, and they're like, I can't get out there. I'm just one person. I can't do anything. I don't know what to do. I can't. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. If you're afraid to speak, make a sign. If you're afraid you don't have enough science to tell your story, there's so much stuff you can do.
Exactly. That's what we're asking right now, is for everyone to make their post, their sign. We need a Twitter storm, a Facebook storm, Instagram storm. We just need a Facebook Live frenzy. We need more support. We need to talk more about Aniya's story. We need to confront these evil bastards that have done this. And that's what we're all doing. We are confronting it. We are all standing up, joining forces, and we are confronting them. This is not okay. They cannot get away with this. And the only way people are going to pay attention is if we keep up and sharing the story. If we start Facebook frenzy, Facebook Live, putting signs out there, doing everything we possibly can to shove it in their face every single day, every moment, every chance we have, every time you have a break, every time you're off, jump on. If you're online, help. Share Aniya's story. Get it out there. Make your sign. Post your pictures. Do your Facebook Live. This is the time, and the time is now. It is now. She needs to come home. This is ridiculous, guys. This is America. This is not what we stand for. We do not stand for a medical cover-up. We do not stand for a medical tyranny. This is not it. America, stand up.
Well, you guys, this fight is not free, and I know that you have done a lot of stuff. I'm sure gas, I'm sure all kinds of things. You've got a big fight ahead of you. So where can people help donate and send money to help you out that will get to you the fastest?
Thank you. The fastest way would be, I have a PayPal account. If you could go on to PayPal and use my email. I've been getting donations through the email, which is AnitaNB68@yahoo.com. That's ANITA, N as in Nancy, V as in Victor, 68@yahoo.com.
Awesome. Yeah, everybody, please, if you can, even if you can only donate a little, please donate something. This is a very big deal. If you don't have anything you can give in that manner, then please make your signs. It's 97 cents for a piece of poster board. I know because I bought one. So get out there, make your signs. It doesn't matter what you think like you look like or what you think people are going to think. It's for a good cause and it's for a purpose. And we've got to see this baby come home. We need this justice for this mother. We need the justice for this baby. She needs to get out of their hands. Lord only knows the kind of things. I mean, then I don't mean to say that to scare you. I know you're in the medical field. You know the kind of things that they do. You know what just happened to her. Obviously, when they do something that they mess up, then they don't want anybody to know about it. So that's even more concerning. And I don't even know how many deaths there are a year and injuries from medical error, but there are, it's insane. It's astronomical, the amount. And for them to just believe, oh, we did this, and all of these problems are the mother's fault. That's what's so mind-blowing to me. I really, wrapping my head around that part is the hardest part for me to wrap my head around, is they know it's documented. This child got this vaccine on accident. Oops, they're bad. And then, but it's the mother's fault. The mother's crazy. It's like, are you effing kidding me? Come on, people, get your act together.
And there's no science behind it.
No, there's none. The science is behind the fact that vaccine is bad for a teenager, much less a baby. Not tested on that age range either, folks. So whatever this reaction is that this poor child has had is like a learning experience to these a-holes. So they're sitting there staring at her. They're sitting there watching her because, hey, this is what we were talking about doing. And we just accidentally, quote, unquote, did it to this child. So we'll take her, and then we'll watch and see what happens. Your child's probably helping influence the package insert.
Exactly. That's why I need to get her home so I can get her to the right physicians and I can get her healed the right way, not through this experiment that they're corroborating through this treason and kidnapping criminal act. This is not right, America. This is not right.
They will lie to you, mothers. If they want something from you or something like that, they will lie to you. Some of you know, but not a lot of you know, when I was pregnant with Lily, they were trying to convince us that she was going to have Edwards syndrome, that if she did make it to birth, she would only live to be at most 7 days old before she would die. They said we had amniotic bands all throughout my womb and that she would either be born without a hand, foot, limb, could be cleft palate. All of those things were bull crap. She was born perfect. She was born healthy. She was born fine, and she was healthy and fine. And then 4 months old, they give her vaccines the same day that the pharmacy, starts with a W, gives her 5 times the medication she was supposed to have. And then they offer me a $500 store card to make up for their mistake. Doctor won't stand up for her, so we can't sue because the doctor just wouldn't say what could happen. She said it has nothing to do with her because she wrote the prescription right. They filled it wrong, so she wanted nothing to do with it. So this is how we ended up at the doctor's office. It actually ended up injuring her further because then at 15 months old, she got behind after all this, girl. I was afraid. And so at 15 months old, she'd only been getting 2 at a time. And by then, we take her in there like, oh, she's got to get 6 today, this and that. She's got to get them. If she can get something that you're going to be in trouble. So, you go through all that, and then you're scared. Because they leave, one person was in the room. They come back, 3 or 4 people are in the room now. So you're already outnumbered, and you're feeling kind of like, well, if I don't do this, are they going to call on me? I love my children. I don't want to lose my children. I already look crazy to these people. It's like, it's a scary world, and it's even scarier when you don't look like the average soccer mom. You're kind of like me. You stand out a little bit, you like to be a little different, and it is a little harder because people judge.
Yeah, they do. I always got to worry
Anita,
about.
I'm pray for you.
Thank you. All the prayers, they're working. They're working because if it wasn't for God shining His light on those medical records and showing me where to look, what to find. And what to highlight and what to bring to the attention to people and others to expose these criminals, then I wouldn't have the knowledge and the power and ability to do so. Yeah. So I know He's good,
pray for
and I know
He's
working
around your baby.
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, pray for that hedge of protection around that baby, you guys. Pray that whatever it is, whatever she's, and for her fear, pray for her to just be at peace and be okay and know that Mama's working on it. Let God instill that peace in her to understand her mom's it's going to get figured out. She's got a lot of people praying for her and caring about her and helping. And you guys get out there and help lift this mother's arms up. I don't know if you're religious or not, but you got to get out there and when we're hurting and we're falling down and we're needing help, we have got to get out there and help each other. So please, everybody, show support. Reach out to Anita. Find out what you can do to help. If you're in Texas, please be at these things that she does. Yes. And you guys, please go to Anita in the 68@yahoo.com. You can put that into PayPal and send Anita what you can. Even if it's $5, you guys, $5 is $5. This stuff adds up. It helps make a difference. It helps put some more money in the gas tank to get to the next court case or whatever the case may be. So
that's right.
I love you, Anita.
Right.
I love you. Thank you so much for doing the show today. You've got a friend in me, and I'm here if you need me, and let me know what I can do to help. If you ever need the platform to share anything or to get people rallied up, you let me know, and we'll make it happen.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And for everybody else, you guys, tune in next week. It's going to be an interesting show. Anu and I have our new Case of the Mondays with Anu and Lynette, or Lynette and Anu, excuse me, backwards, first hour. So you guys tune in for that. And I don't know who my guest is. I don't think I have a guest for next week. I'll figure it out throughout the week. If you want to be a guest on the show next week and you've got a story to tell, then you can message me and let me know. And that is Lynette Marie Barron on Facebook. You can tell me. My Facebook picture is a picture of me and Catherine Layton, so you guys can find me there. Anyway, love you guys, and we will talk to y'all next week.